All right, the meeting is officially called to order. Would our city clerk please call the roll?
Councilman DeCiccio. Councilman Nowakowski. Councilwoman Pastor. Councilwoman Stark. Here. Councilman Valenzuela.
Here.
Councilman Waring. Councilwoman Williams.
Here.
Vice Mayor Gallego.
Here.
Mayor Stanton.
Here. Ms. Holm, our interpreter, is here with us. Please introduce yourself to the audience.
Buenas tardes, me llamo Judy, soy intérprete de español. Si alguien necesita el equipo, por favor venga conmigo o con el personal de la ciudad. Gracias.
Thank you very much. Next in our agenda are citizen comments. Citizens are allowed up to 3 minutes to talk about any subject they'd like before this city council. Leonard Clark, you are first, followed by Ms. Diane Barker, followed by Mr. Rusnick and Mr. Deibler.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. My name is Leonard Clark. I'm a resident of the city of Phoenix, born in the city of Phoenix, live in beautiful City District 1. There's like two things I wanted to talk about. First, as probably everybody here today knows, is the 75th anniversary of Pearl Harbor. My father's a World War II veteran. My uncle was in the Navy, and as family legend goes, they said he didn't know how to swim. I don't know how you can be in the Navy and not know how to swim, but it was World War II. So, anyways, I haven't forgotten, but today I watched something that was on the media that had some Pearl Harbor veterans, they're growing in age now, stating that some of the students they spoke with did not even know about Pearl Harbor, did not know what it was about. And sometimes we take for granted the fact that because we grew up around World War II veterans that we know what happened with Pearl Harbor, especially since we're the state of Arizona and we had the unspeakable loss that we had. So I just ask the council and the citizens of Phoenix that I know that we appreciate what our veterans do and thank them, because I wouldn't be standing here if it wasn't for them. But I really hope that we reach out to our young people, because we have so many things competing for attention now. So many things and so much stress with the internet and social media. My second thing I wanted to speak about is recently near the Circle K where I live, there's been 2 robberies and the police were there. And as you all know, I'm in the middle. I get dirty looks sometimes from people in law enforcement because they think I'm against the police. I get dirty looks from some of my friends on the left who think, Leonard, why are you supporting police? And the problem is, it's not a political thing. I ask that we continue the programs, the social interaction programs that we have with our police, because we like to complain about our police when we get tickets. But, you know, with the Circle K where I live now I'm worried. My daughter, my friends walking at night up at 19th or 35th Avenue and Union Hills Drive. We've had these robberies, and now we do have the police asking for more law enforcement. But I would state that it should go hand in hand. The mental health training our officers are going to get, because they're going to be the first people that meet up sometimes with mentally ill people. So there's no right or wrong thing. We are in the middle now in America. We have one group that paints what the police do is perfect. We have another group that paints everything that the police do is evil, is wrong. There's no either or. It's complicated. Life is not black and white. America is color television. It's not 1950s black and white, you know. So we have to work together, and we better solve this problem. So let's do something about that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Clark. Ms. Diane Barker.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Diane Barker. I'm in District 7, and I think that we've got the MO down, Mayor. You know, we're just coming one after another here, and I want to wish you all a happy holiday. And I'd like to give this to one of my favorite departments, to Chris Meyer. Are you there? And everybody else. We had a good time Monday. What do we do on Mondays? We get out. Where? No matter the weather or what day it is, we go downtown Phoenix, and that is where we meet at Copper Hill, Mountain, Copper Blues. which is right in City Space. And we've had over 17,000 persons. We had a birthday party. We encourage you to do it. There are a lot of discounts with the retailers on food and drink, and we have raffle tickets. And I'm hoping soon they'll raffle off some transit tickets, because the gal that helps run the show had to pay $27 for losing her parking pass. So, you know, we want to see your participation, and that's also with the council too, Mayor. You know that multimodal, it feels good. If you don't want me to do a cartwheel, you know, maybe someday MAG will say, hey, when you can't get around because the freeways are all clogged and everything, the participation is good. And over at Board of Supervisors this morning, Andy Kanasic was commemorated for his service, and they're getting ex-council member Bill Gates. So that should be somebody and that we would have collaboration with, you know, in the county. It was made comment that the freeways were very slow today, and we're going to get more visitors. The Fiesta Bowl is going to be here, and we're going to have to work smart, and we ask for your participation.
Thank you very much, Ms. Barker. Mr. Rusnick. And then Mr. Deibler is the final speaker.
I'm John Rusnick. I'd like to bring up a few things. The one is the steel that I got for Kurt Rapp on that driveway. He put 1/2 inch rock in there to 2 inches, and he would not be weeds or litter free, and there'll be no track out whatsoever. I got 2 more that were given out. I don't know whether you call these a work order, whether you call these a letter, but it's what they're supposed to do. And on the 2 letters, it's got 2 inches crushed rock, 1/4, 3/4 inch. The site would be kept weed and clear, and would be treated with Gorilla Snot binder. Wraps does not have the Gorilla Snot binder. And then I got one on that has Technisil, and it said you can use either. And then it says use decomposed granite, 1/4, 3/4, granite 3 to 5 inches, and it's got sealed with Technisoil. So what has happened is now Rapp was given this letter with no sealer on it at all. So, and then what they said in the deal, that the dust palliative such as Marlock soil sediment or similar environmentally friendly product. So what we should have is something similar to those products in place. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rusnick. Mr. Deibler.
Hello, I am James Deibler. I live in Phoenix, Arizona. I am going to school at Arizona State University. I graduated from Glendale Community College with my Associate of General Studies degree. I live in Council District 5. Last week, I sent an email to Mr. Fresher about installing curbs on 37th Avenue and Tucky Lane. That current curbs don't meet the ADA requirements, in the city of Phoenix need to take a look into the project before starting it. There are no curbs from 37th Avenue and Beverly Home Road to 37th Avenue in Glendale. I know curbs are running edges of the sidewalk. They join with the street. If the person ride an electric wheelchair on 37th Avenue, they use the one-way to get around, reaching their destination without the ramp. The city of Phoenix needs to take a look at the project. I know Phoenix Train Station 2050 would fund street improvements, including the starting curbs at more sidewalks. And with West Plaza neighborhood, there are no curbs at every neighborhood sidewalk. The city of Phoenix needs to install a traffic light on 37th Avenue in Glendale. There are too many minor high school students walking across the street without the traffic light. When one of the minor students get off the bus, the students risk getting hit by a car. It would be a good idea for the city of Phoenix to install a traffic light before students get hurt. Finally, the city of Phoenix needs to install a playground to meet ADA requirements. The city of Mesa installed a playground at the Dobson Ranch Park to meet the requirements of children with disabilities in their community. There are a lot of people living with autism and other disabilities every day facing a learning challenge at elementary school, middle school, high school, and even college. People with disabilities need a playground to have fun and meet real kids on the everyday basis. Children with disabilities have a right to not be discriminated against other people at the park and at elementary schools. The city needs to study the issue before starting a playground for children with disabilities. Thanks for no time and consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Dibler, very much. Thanks for that testimony. There's no more speakers for citizen comment. Would the city clerk now please read the 24-hour paragraph?
The titles of the following ordinance and resolution numbers on the agenda were available to the public at least 24 hours prior to this council meeting and therefore may be read by title or agenda item only. Ordinances number G5753 and G6241 through 6249, S43058 through 43072, and resolutions numbered 21389 and 21500 through 21502.
Thank you very much. There are no meeting minutes to approve, no boards and commissions today. Now move on to liquor license applications. Vice Mayor, there are omnibus on liquor license applications.
Motion to approve items 1 through 11.
We have a motion and a second on 1 through 11. Are there any cards on those items? They're all in favor, not wishing to speak. Any comments by members of this council or questions? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Next item on the agenda is item number 12. Item number 12 is a proposed liquor license for Huss Brewing in Councilwoman Pastor's district. Could we get a short presentation by our staff? And then I'll turn to the councilwoman for any comments or motion, or that she wants to hear from the public cards first. Please.
Mayor, members of the council, my name is Denise Archibald with the City Clerk Department, and with me is Nathan Watts with the Prosecutor's Office. This request is for an ownership and location transfer of a Series 7 beer and wine bar license from Tempe for a business named Huss Brewing at Uptown Plaza. This location was not previously licensed for liquor sales. This location also requires a use permit to allow outdoor alcohol consumption, and a use permit hearing with the Planning and Development Department has been scheduled for this purpose. 1 letter in support and 34 letters protesting the issuance of this license were received during the statutory 20-day public comment period and are on file in the office of the city clerk. The letter of support is from a local resident who feels the business and liquor license will be a positive addition to the neighborhood. The letters of protest are from local residents and the Windsor Special Planning Historic District. They are concerned with the location of the proposed liquor license and its close proximity to the neighborhood that's adjacent to the location. Consideration may be given to both the applicant's qualifications and to the location. Staff recommends disapproval of this liquor license application based on neighborhood protests.
All right, thank you very much. I have numerous cards on both sides of the issue. I'll turn it over to Councilwoman Pastor, see if she maybe has a motion that she wants to put on the floor, that, and therefore the individuals wishing to speak can react to that particular motion or make any recommended changes that they want. In light of the number of cards on both sides, maybe I'll limit it to a total of 15 minutes on each side. I'm sure we can thoroughly cover the issues. We have a lot of busy agenda for the remainder of the agenda as well. Councilwoman Pastor.
Well, thank you for both the industry and the neighbors for being here as I make this decision. I was hoping that before Monday that the neighbors and the development would have been able to dialogue and come up with several solutions. But the best thing that happened was on Monday, I was able to meet with neighbors and Huss Brewery and everybody present there to really talk about what is the issue regarding Huss. Do understand specifically the location. It's not an ideal spot in the sense of it's close to the neighborhood. It would have been better that it was up front in the front area where the parking lot is. But with the plans that were presented 2 years ago, that whole corridor was meant for that area of dining and entertainment. And so I have to make a very tough decision in determining what to do. So in me listening to both sides and understanding both sides, I am making a motion for no recommendation. I believe that this piece will be settled at the liquor board. The other piece, what I am also recommending and asking the applicant, the applicant and Camila, is that that you work with my office and I and the neighbors that are in opposition to this project to really work out the patio piece and come to some agreement about that piece and all the other concerns, such as noise, traffic mitigation, and other concerns, that we can work that out collectively before, I believe it's going to be in February. Okay, so before we can all get together and work out pieces of that, if possible, or we will collectively figure it out. So my stance is no recommendation.
All right, so a motion for no recommendation. Do we have a second on that motion?
Second.
Okay, so we do have a second. So that's the motion that's on the table, and those that wish to provide testimony for this council request that you make your remarks regarding that particular recommendation. Again, we have numerous cards on both sides. I'm going to ask that the total testimony, either on both sides, each side gets 15 minutes to provide their perspective. I'll start with the applicant, represented by Camila Alarcon. I apologize if I...
Yes,
Alarcon,
thank
please.
you.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Good afternoon. I want to first thank staff and the members of the council for all of the time and consideration that they have spent on this liquor license application. We are very, very appreciative of the consideration and the willingness to have all parties come together and hopefully come to a resolution. We are in support of the motion for no recommendation. We believe that it provides us in the use permit process the ability to address some of the issues regarding noise and parking and so forth that is actually very appropriate for the use permit process. I am not going to, since there's already a motion on the table in a second, I'm not going to go into my speech, and I'm actually not going to say that much anymore, except for thank you. And yes, we will work together with the neighborhood to make sure that that the impact is very, very minimal on that neighborhood. I do, however, want to acknowledge everybody who showed up today and took time out of their busy schedules to come here and support Huss Brewing. So if you can all please just raise your hands, I would greatly appreciate it. And there is several people down in the basement as well. I do want to give my client the opportunity to present the concept that they have to you guys, so you fully understand. So Leah Huss.
Okay, Ms. Huss, you originally said you didn't want to speak, but you want to speak? That's perfectly fine.
Yes, I would, sorry.
Please, okay, good.
Hi, I'm Leah Huss, Mayor Stanton, and members of the council. For 16 years, the craft beer industry has been my home and my husband's. It is what has paid the bills for our family in the last 8 of our marriage. 3 years ago, my husband and I decided to plant permanent roots in Arizona in the craft beer industry, and we opened Huss Brewing Company. Our dream, like millions of other Americans, was to create something of our own that could be shared with like-minded people in our community. We set out to create a legacy for our family and for our young daughter Lola, so that one day she could be a proud Arizona businesswoman like me. We are old-fashioned, Midwestern valued people. We're hardworking, active, and proud members of our community. We made the decision to expand our reach in the community this year at Uptown Phoenix because of the amount of time and friends that we have in the area. The vibrant nature of Uptown Phoenix, and the existing businesses that were flourishing attracted us to the area. When we first toured the Uptown Plaza and saw the existing restaurants full of happy customers, we knew we were home. Huss Brewing at Uptown is meant to complement the neighborhood. It's meant as a gathering place where people can congregate and enjoy our craft beers brewed with love, homemade food, handcrafted sodas, and a relaxing atmosphere. We were so excited to sign our lease and meet the neighboring businesses who welcomed us with open arms. You can imagine the shock when we found out that there are some neighbors in Windsor Square that didn't want us there. I'm empathetic to the fact that the neighbors did not want a full-service bar in the location, but we've tried to show that Huss Brewing is not a full-service bar, and we cannot serve liquor. We're proudly a family-friendly neighborhood tap room. We felt that we had done everything to become a good neighbor, including self-imposing restrictions on ourselves, operating hours, signing our lease, no external speakers, live music would be allowed, and also met with them in person. We expected to discuss, negotiate the patio permit, but we never imagined that 3 months after our initial announcement and tens of thousands of dollars already invested, that we would be facing real possibility of losing everything. We want to work with the local residents and neighbors, hope to build upon the relationship that Vintage Partners already has in the center and the permit process beyond. The overwhelming public support here today, as well as the last few weeks, has been humbling to us, and I thank the residents of Windsor Square and surrounding neighborhoods that made calls supporting us and emails that have shown their support. I also just want to say thank you to Councilwoman Pastor, and we definitely look forward to working with you and the Windsor Square residents.
Thank you so very much. How much time do I have left for that team? 10 minutes and 30 seconds left. Okay. Well, I'm going to go back and forth so both sides are equally represented. President of the Windsor Square Association, Ken Mosesian. Ken, good to see you.
Mayor Stanton, Councilwoman Pastor, honorable council members, my name is Ken Mosesian. I'm the president of the Board of Directors of Windsor Square Historic District. I'd like to begin by thanking Councilwoman Pastor for her work on this issue, for taking seriously the commitment to the historic neighborhoods in Phoenix, and finally by mentioning that we concur with the no recommendation vote. I'm here today to state our board's unanimous opposition to the location of the proposed liquor license for Huss Brewing. There are currently 5 restaurant liquor licenses and outdoor patios for alcohol consumption at Uptown Plaza. We worked collaboratively with Vintage Partners and did not oppose liquor licenses and patios. And to be perfectly clear, our objection is not to Huss Brewing having a presence in Uptown Plaza. In fact, we hold the Husses in high regard. We respect their entrepreneurial spirit, and many of us enjoy their fine product. Our objection is to the location at Uptown Plaza. The beer and wine bar will be located 34 feet from a single-family residential home and from several homes along that alleyway. This tap room will have a total seating capacity of 103 people, including 24 seats on the open patio. There'll be dual garage doors, which, when opened, remove the sound barrier between the indoor patrons and our neighbors. Our concern related to location is about the noise generated by people who are sitting outside, or for that matter, sitting inside when the garage doors are rolled up and drinking beer and wine. According to their website, Huss Brewing will be open until 10 p.m. Sunday through Thursday and midnight on Friday and Saturday. We consulted an acoustical engineer to help us assess the potential impact of Huss Brewing in this location. He concluded that the patio of this beer and wine bar will create elevated noise levels in excess of current ambient levels by 15 decibels or more, and the City of Phoenix's historical guidelines by 10 decibels or more. And a 10 decibel increase is perceived as being twice as loud. We also consulted a qualified real estate appraisal firm. His preliminary findings are that the customers of Huss Brewing will park along our residential streets for convenient access through the alley and for takeout packaged beer sales, and that late evening noise levels will be elevated, all of which will likely create a loss of residential property values. I also want to add that we've enjoyed a good working relationship with Vintage Partners, particularly with David Scholl. In discussions last year, we requested, and David agreed, to not installing a bar in the courtyard near our residence. That's why we were so surprised to learn that the tap room would be located in the most objectionable place possible. And while we understand the technical difference between a bar and a tap room, the fact remains that this is an establishment whose primary business is serving beer and wine. There's a point of law that states the right of homeowners to the quiet enjoyment of their neighborhood. Our historic homeowners should not have to face the prospect of a tap room located on the other side of their backyard, where they'll be forced to endure bar noise and commercial parking from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. or midnight, 7 days a week. The City of Phoenix is committed specifically to the protection of our historic neighborhoods. We ask for your support in preserving our quality of life while promoting compatible commercial development. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for your testimony. How about Andrew Dunn? Did you provide testimony on this item? Please.
Good afternoon. I have nothing to add. I will look forward to the other processes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dunn. How about Cheyenne Walsh representing Alba? Ms. Walsh, did you wish to provide testimony?
Good afternoon, Mayor, members of the council. Cheyenne Walsh here on behalf of the Arizona Licensed Beverage Association in support of Councilwoman Pastor's motion. ALBA is a statewide membership association of retail liquor licensees, and we work to promote the responsible operation of licensed establishments. Huss is an ALBA member and a longtime member of the craft brewing community, and the proposed tap room at Uptown Plaza is a well-capitalized endeavor by a responsible local business owner who has demonstrated the ability to operate a first-class establishment. This can be an amenity to the community, and they have demonstrated a willingness to work with the stakeholders in order to make this business operate well for both parties. So on behalf of ALBA, we respectfully encourage you to support the motion. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Ms. Walsh. Any questions? Thanks for your testimony.
Thank you.
Next is Elizabeth Therian, followed by Mr. David Scholl.
Good afternoon. My name is Liz Terrian. I live at 32 East Medlock. Medlock runs parallel to the back of Uptown Plaza, and I oppose this liquor license at this location or any place in Uptown Plaza that runs along Medlock or 2nd Street. Windsor Square has a neighborhood conservation plan, and in that conservation plan, it has goals, and I'll just quickly read that to you. So the neighborhood goals and objectives for land use states that encourage redevelopment that upgrades the value and appearance of commercial and/or residential properties, protect the integrity of residential areas and limit the expansion of commercial land uses into the neighborhood, and 3, ensure adequate buffering between existing residential uses and the commercial and multifamily redevelopment. Currently on Medlock, there is no buffering. I can see directly into the back of Uptown Plaza and all the parking and all the activity that goes on. And it also states objectives is to maintain Uptown Plaza as a neighborhood shopping center. I don't believe a bar or a lounge would constitute a shopping center. For those reasons, and in addition to people coming out of their of Huss Brewing at 1 o'clock in the morning, parking on Medlock would be upsetting to my peace and enjoyment of my home. I would just also like to ask all the people that were in favor of Huss Brewing to stand up that live in the neighborhood. I would just like that for the record that we see 2 people.
All right, thank you very much. Well,
That live in the neighborhood.
I gave her some leeway on that one, but really the direction is, or the conversation is with the mayor and council, please.
And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. The next speaker will be Mr. David Scholl, followed by Sally Stefferud.
I'm David Scholl with Vintage Partners at 2502 East Camelback. I too just want to start by telling all of the council, thank you very much. You've given this measure a lot of attention the last couple of weeks. We appreciate that. Specifically to Councilwoman Pastor, I apologize that you had to get involved. I am very thankful that you got involved though, and brought the leadership to move some of us, and myself included, off some sort of polar position. So that is helpful, and I appreciate that leadership. I also want to take a moment to just tell all of you how much I am appreciative and impressed by your staffs. A lot of staff time was involved in this, and they made a big difference in helping to understand and move messages back and forth between us and all of you. So very thankful and impressed with all of the people you have working with you as well. I think the only thing I want to say is I think Vintage Partners has demonstrated a desire to continue to be a great neighbor with this neighborhood, as well as the other 3 at this Four Corners intersection. At no time has it been more important to me to want to make sure that that continues. I think I want to up my game over the next few weeks so that we can really find some good solutions to this issue. And I just want to let all of you know that in addition to that commitment, we've got an amazing commitment for the shopping centers too. As you know, the shopping center business is in upheaval right now. Internet sales are destroying sticks and bricks format in this country, and we've got functionally obsolete space at Uptown Center, and it is a real task to try and reinvigorate this center. As we participated in Reinvent Phoenix, and as we canvassed neighborhoods in every direction from this intersection, they've asked for boutiques, they've asked for great destination dining and food and beverage operations, and they asked us to keep AJ's. I think we are well on our way to providing all of that. I think it responds to a lot of people that live in this area. I think we owe it to the neighbors in Windsor Square to address all of their concerns. And I just want you to know that the actions that are taken by them and us, I think, will make Uptown Plaza a wonderful destination in the future and really contribute to the sustainability and the placemaking that was always intended with that courtyard. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Scholl. Ms. Sally Stefferud.
Thank you for allowing me to speak today. My name is Sally Stefferud. I live at 315 East Medlock. And I want to start out by saying I'm a fan of beer. It isn't that I'm opposed to Huss Brewing Company, but I am opposed to that location. I only live 2 blocks away from it. And I don't know if you guys, anyone here remembers the Hamburger Mary problem a few years ago. Hamburger Mary's was 4 blocks away from my house, and we often could hear the noise from Hamburger Mary's. Huss Brewing Company will only be 2 blocks away. So I'm certainly not a fan of the increased noise, the increased light, the increased traffic, the increased number of inebriated people wandering the streets looking for their lost car. These things are going to impact my home and my neighborhood, and they are not things that I think are compatible with the stability of our neighborhood. As far as the recommendation the proposal to not recommend and to go back and talk again about possibilities for this development, I just want to say that over the past year or so at meetings, I have several times brought up the subject of increased noise and increased light, and have gotten promises that this will be addressed. And so far as I can figure out, there has been no effort to address it at all. Now, perhaps there has been talk, but it certainly hasn't gotten out to those of us in the neighborhood. If you go with the not recommend and enter further negotiations, please consider strongly some kind of buffers, not just for the Huss Brewing Company, but for all the developments in that area. They're already introducing pedestrians, cars, and noise into the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. How much time is left on the side in favor of? 7 minutes. Okay, so I have 4 more cards, I think in favor of Huss Brewing. I'm sure they're in favor of the particular motion, but in favor of Huss Brewing. I have no other cards wishing to speak opposed. So if your testimony, the statement you're going to make has already been given, you don't have to get up and speak. If you want to repeat it, you certainly have the right to do so, but we've got a lot of big issues on today's agenda. Ms. Kristen Henry, you're in favor. Did you wish to provide testimony for this council? Ms. Henry? Oh, you're okay. Okay, so your support will be registered for the record. Mr. Brent Kleinman, did you provide testimony? Please come forward, and then Ms. Dr. Anthony Dunnigan.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. This is a proposal I would have liked to have seen the board approve, but the no decision is an acceptable move forward to allowing the state to take a clear, free look at this. The history of Uptown Plaza and what it was, that section of Uptown Plaza historically has had jazz dinner clubs, loud music type venues, and I understand the concerns that the residents have, but I believe all the designs of this center showed this was going to be restaurant type zoning and tenants in here, and it's I don't want to say too late to bring it up, but I know there's many other centers in Central Phoenix that would love to have Huss Brewing moving in, and I think this is a great addition, and the concerns of the driving to the back streets and entrances, I think, are things that could all be addressed in the use permit and discussions between Huss Brewing and the neighborhoods. But to hold back any approval of this liquor license would be damaging to the center, to the city, and to a family that's done a whole lot to help our community. So I would love to see an approval, but I will take the no consideration on this. Thank you all very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kleinman. One additional card did come in opposed from the neighborhood, and I'll take that testimony. Mr. John Learman.
Good afternoon. My name is John Learman. I'm an attorney. I live at 22 East Medlock Drive. I'm a next door neighbor to the plaza where the proposed brewery is to go in. At this time, the existing noise levels coming from that plaza are already intrusive. I can hear them inside of my house. The addition of another location will only increase those noise levels. It's true, as the council has heard, that the landlord has worked with the neighborhood in many respects, but the landlord has already received concessions from the city. They were grandfathered out of portions of the city sanitation code. They have already been given all the incentives that a developer could reasonably expect for developing property in the city center, given the other developments going on, which make it a lucrative venture in the worst of circumstances. As pointed out, Huss Brewery has many other options. Many other places would welcome the brewery, and the opposition in the neighborhood is strong. I would ask that the council not abdicate its responsibilities to its constituents, but oppose this as the staff has recommended, and let the developer find another option for that location. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Learman. Dr. Dunnigan?
Hi, thanks very much for your time. I'll be brief. I'm also representing my wife, Dr. Diana Dunnigan. We are North Central Phoenix residents. I have a son at Brophy, hopefully another one, fingers crossed. We are by Uptown Plaza all the time, at least twice a day. We shop at AJ's. I get my hair cut at Salon Estique. We love Lou Malnati's. I think the Huss establishment is a wonderful addition to that plaza. I love seeing it transform back into a vibrant plaza, as I've seen pictures of in the mid to late 50s. I will also say I've had the pleasure of being in the Huss establishment in Tempe. It's a wonderful place. The general commotion is people playing board games and Lola Huss running around drawing cartoons. So I think people may have a different picture of what a typical tap room is. So appreciate your support. Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much, Doctor. Next will be Mr. Rob Fulmer, representing the Arizona Craft Brewers Guild. Is Mr. Fulmer here? Good to see you.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'm happy to hear that there is going to be some discussion after, if this vote goes through, and we support moving the process forward for continued discussions. Again, my name is Rob Fulmer. I'm the Executive Director of the Arizona Craft Brewers Guild, representing 104 brewery restaurants, breweries, tasting rooms across Arizona. I just wanted to point out there's been some rapid growth in the Arizona craft beer community, and I say community because I include the businesses and the people involved. Currently, there are 10 breweries in Phoenix, and there are 14 in Tucson. So the point I'm going to make is I will want to work with the city of Phoenix, and I want to work with the neighborhoods because we are a community, and they rely on your support. It is getting harder and harder for them to make a business in the packaged goods market, and we are seeing more neighborhood locations, and we feel like they're stitching together neighborhoods where that didn't exist. So as they look for second locations, and as they work with great partners like Vintage, and as they look at the neighborhood website that welcomes them, I don't want us to make these kinds of mistakes as an industry. So I'm just pledging my time and efforts towards working with the City of Phoenix towards making this process easier, and I offer that as well to the neighbors so that we can learn from this experience, and we can continue to, again, look for community support, because if we don't have community support, community supporting Arizona beer, then we have nothing left. So it is vitally important that we do that. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fulmer. Appreciate your testimony. Okay, I have no other speakers on either side on this item. I have numerous cards in favor, numerous cards also opposed. I'll submit them to the city clerk for the record so they get notice for the record. We have a motion for no recommendation. We have a second. I'll now turn it to members of the council to see if they have any questions or comments before we have a vote. All right, are there any comments by members of the council? I just want to say thank you to Councilwoman Pastor. Worked with her since she's been, known her for a long time. Since elected, she's a strong neighborhood advocate. It's a very difficult case because there were a number of people opposed to the item, and that was the reason, I think, for the staff recommendation. On the legal side, we've been around the block a while when it comes to the state liquor board, and when there's not a strong legal case, we generally are not successful there. So I think the councilwoman has done the appropriate thing with this recommendation, is try to balance out the cards that were dealt her, if you will, to make this, I think, a very appropriate recommendation. I know you can count on her as you deal with and assuming they do get the license through the state liquor board, the inevitable process that has to occur relative to working out issues about the outdoor seating, noise issues, et cetera, as it goes through the hearing officer process. You can count on her leadership in that regard as well. I know her and I trust her in that regard. Any other comments by members of this council? There is a motion for no recommendation. A second. Roll call.
DeCiccio.
Yes.
Nowakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Stark. Yes. Valenzuela. Waring. Williams. Gallego.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, although I want to take one more shot at Councilman Valenzuela. I apologize, I should have mentioned earlier, Councilman Valenzuela has been on the phone the entire time. He's not able to be here presently. Councilman Valenzuela, are you on the phone presently? Okay, hopefully we'll get back on. So that motion, the motion for no recommendation passes 8-0. Okay, next item on the agenda, I'll ask that we take a particular item out of order. Do we need a motion to take an item out of order? Can I get a Vice Mayor a motion to take item 45 out of order?
Motion to suspend the rules and take item 45 out of order.
We have a motion. We have a second to take 45 out of order. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so we're going to move on to item 45 in about 15 seconds as people swiftly. What's that? Yeah, I'm going to wait about a minute, 30 seconds or so for people to clear out of the room.
Mayor?
Councilman DeCiccio, go ahead.
I think one of the things we can do is we can actually, I think there's some level of agreement here on this withdrawal. We could have the applicant, or not the applicant, or ones opposed to or in favor of the withdrawal, I don't know what you would call them, come give their testimony, and then maybe someone from the neighborhood could after that. Does that work for you guys?
Yeah, give it about 30 more seconds, Sal.
Yeah, it's fine.
Just a second.
Hey, Mayor.
Councilman Valenzuela?
Yeah, I apologize. I was trying to also vote. I am in favor of that last vote. And, I don't have the best connection here.
Okay, I'm asking the city attorney, Councilman Valenzuela was able to get back on the phone, is in favor of the motion for no recommendation. Is he too late? Okay, Councilman, on the advice of council, your vote does not count for that one. We can do a motion for reconsideration, or we can just live with it knowing that in spirit you were there.
Yeah, no need to do that. I've been on it, just didn't have the best.
All right, so it is noted for the record that your intent was to vote yes.
Yes,
okay.
correct.
Okay. And Councilman, we're going to take item 45 out of order. Item 45 is the issue of the historic overlay of the David and Gladys Wright House. For some reason, it still says Frank Lloyd Wright House on the, at least on the sheet that I have in front of me. It should be the David and Gladys Wright House. Okay, I had originally thought that we would hear a short staff presentation, see if there is a motion to be put on the floor, hear from the numerous speakers. Councilman DeCiccio had a separate suggestion. Councilman, say it again, please.
Well, I just found out that there may not be a deal, so they can go ahead and go forward then.
Okay, so my request is that we have a short staff presentation. We'll see if there is a motion at that time. Then people who are here to provide testimony can provide testimony based upon that recommendation, and then we take a vote. I've asked that we keep the total testimony on each side to 30 minutes, so a total of 1 hour of testimony. I think we can cover all of the issues in a very thorough manner in that period of time. Ruben Alonso on my staff has checked with at least the lawyers representing each side, and there's a lot of them, that 30 minutes was okay, and they agreed, and I hope that the community as well will adhere to the 30 minutes total on each side. Okay, with that, I'll turn it to our planning director, Mr. Alan Stevens, for a short staff report.
Just a quick question. Do we need the whole hour on that? You know, I've got a father in a hospital that just got called in. That's why we bumped this up. I mean, I thought we were going to try and limit that to 15 minutes or something each.
Okay, well, the
don't
answer to that question is the agreement that I apologize, and I know.
And thank you.
I was
for
trying not
moving
to
it
mention
up
that, because of the personal situation. The agreement we made is half hour. Out of respect for the councilman and the difficult circumstances that he's in, I would ask each side to keep it as limited as possible. I think the issues have been well covered by members of the council. We're well aware of the difficult issues involved here. So I won't put a legal limit. I'll just say it out of respect for the council member who has to very swiftly get to someplace very important, that we keep the testimony as short as possible. So Alan Stevenson, with that caveat, please begin.
Mayor, members of council, the request before you is a historic preservation landmark designation for the David and Gladys Wright House, which is approximately 310 feet north and northeast corner of Exeter Boulevard and Rubicon. You can see the application area here in red is the 2.45 acre area. This is just a zoomed in of what the grounds looked like a few years ago. This next slide here shows The area, in this case, the 2.45 acre is now this yellow. This is the city's original HP landmark designation that's here before you today. There is another case that the applicant, or the property owner, I should say, has filed, which is a larger 5.9 acre historic preservation landmark case. That's not on your agenda, but that is out there, and that's when these historic preservation, arguments could be taken up in the future with a special permit that would look at exactly where the accessory commercial uses that would be allowed on that site. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Stevenson, for keeping that presentation brief. It should be noted that we did have an executive session on the legal issues surrounding this matter previous to this city council meeting. All right, I'll turn it over to Councilwoman Deborah Stark. Do you have a motion to put on the table?
Thank you, Mayor. I do. I move to withdraw the application for the Historic Preservation Landmark designation, which is ordinance G5753. That would be zoning case 24-12-6. That's the historic overlay of the David and Gladys Wright House. I'd be happy to.
First, let's see if there's a second. Is there a second? There's a motion. There is a second. I think any comments by this council, I think my preference is that we get through the cars as quickly as possible. Hopefully we can get through them very quickly in light of the situation that Councilman DeCiccio is unfortunately dealing with, and then we can see if there's any short comments by members of this council. And again, I had the deal that we had agreed to is 30 minutes. Council member for the area is asking that we keep it as short as possible. Vanessa Hickman.
And Mayor, you can keep as long. I'm going to leave right now, but I'm going to be on the phone.
Okay. Thank you, Councilman.
All right, thank you, Mayor. Vanessa Hickman with Public-Private Land Strategies here on behalf of the David Wright House, LLC, the owner of the David and Gladys Wright House. A lot has happened since we were last before you more than 7 months ago. Most significantly, we've spent considerable time looking for philanthropic partners to help Mr. Rawling and his family sustain the property and have put new thought into the property's conceptual design. We've replaced the property's former architect with Victor City, who received his architectural training from the Frank Lloyd Wright School of Architecture and served as the head of school and dean of that same institution. With Mr. City at the helm, we have invested time in a conceptual design for the property that takes previously articulated neighborhood concerns into account. And although we have a concept for how the property might be used, it is not the plan. It is an example vision that we're sharing with potential nonprofit partners in hopes of soliciting their participation in the project. For that reason, it would be premature to share that concept with you today. But whatever plan is finally developed will be the vision of that philanthropic partnership, a plan that will allow the public to learn from and appreciate the David and Gladys Wright House, an opportunity afforded the public at so many other Frank Lloyd Wright properties in Arizona and across the nation. Unfortunately, while we've had several promising leads for a philanthropic partner, no one has yet committed to date for one specific reason: the presence of the competing city-initiated 2.45 acre historic preservation landmark application. The city's plan forecloses all meaningful public access to the property and covers under half of the existing 5.9 acre property and prevents our ability to attract philanthropic support for the project. No one wants to spend time and invest significant financial resources on a project that the city appears to oppose by virtue of its competing and highly limiting application. We're appearing before you today to ask you to withdraw the 2.45 acre application, which makes it impossible to move forward with preserving the home with a philanthropic partner and providing appropriate public access to the property. If the city's plan is not withdrawn, we will reluctantly but confidently file a Proposition 207 takings claim against the city. Mr. Michael Kibler, our litigation attorney, is here to speak to those claims. A lawsuit is most certainly not the desire. We want to preserve the property for the public's benefit and use, but we may not have any other option. We hope that reason instead of politics prevail, and when the city's plan is withdrawn, we will proceed with other philanthropic partners to advance the 5.9 acre HPL application that the Historic Preservation Commission of the City of Phoenix approved a little over a year ago. We have tremendous support from the historic preservation community and other neighborhood supporters for the withdrawal of the 2.45 acre city-initiated HPL application, who would also like to speak today. This is just the beginning. Once we have a plan with a charitable organization to bring before you, we hope to present a unified vision of a self-sustaining way to preserve this architecturally significant home with the integrity of its surroundings and public access. The time to ripen those discussions is with the development of the site plan, special permit, and furtherance of the 5.9-acre property owner-initiated historic preservation landmark application, again, that was approved by the City of Phoenix Historic Preservation Commission and is still pending in front of the city. We remain committed to our focus on creating partnerships to preserve the David Wright House and will preserve all of our private property rights and use of the property to forge those relationships. I would like to offer the floor to Victor City to discuss the significant work he has done, and then to Mr. Michael Kibler, our litigation attorney. And after they finish their remarks, together we're happy to answer any questions that the city might have as we seek to withdraw the 2.45-acre application and allow us to preserve the David and Gladys Wright House with meaningful public access and respect for the private property rights of the private property owner. And with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. City if the mayor.
Thank you very much,
wants to-
Mrs.
Thank you.
Hickman. Please.
Mayor, Council, thank you for hearing this issue. As Ms. Hickman had indicated, the old plan that had previously been circulated throughout the neighborhood has been scrapped. Our current conceptual planning is creating the groundwork for a newer, more modest plan. And I think many of the concerns of the neighbors with the previous plan are now, we're looking for a resolution that finds common ground between the potential of this historic building and site and some of the concerns of the neighbors. In our initial conceptual plans, we have determined that the larger 5.9 owner-initiated application site is really a win-win-win proposal in the following ways. And firstly, the larger site is good for preservation. And if you can turn your eyes to the
Sir, how long is your presentation?
Just about 3 minutes,
Keep
3 or
it
4
very short,
minutes.
only because
Sure.
we're not voting on this plan here today.
Absolutely,
Today is
thank
only
you.
The motion that's on the table is a withdrawal of the city's
Mayor,
initiation.
that doesn't fit the agenda item. I mean, how do we debate this today? Because I'm ready to debate the 5.9 if that's what they want to do, and I don't think it fits the agenda.
Okay, well, I'm going to use my judgment and say I'm allowing to move forward because this is why they are in support of the withdrawal to pursue this plan. But I just want to make sure that I'm asking to keep it very short and with the caveat that this is, so that the public and the people in the audience are aware that this plan is not on the table here today. Sir.
Sure, thank you. And just very briefly, the larger plan preserves the historic viewshed towards Camelback Mountain, something that really could not be done with the previous much smaller 2.45-acre plan. You can see here in Frank Lloyd Wright's original sketch, which is overlaid on the aerial photograph. This area here is where Frank Lloyd Wright had indicated citrus orchard or grove. The larger property clearly allows consideration of that initial idea to be part of the plan. I'd also like to say that the larger site is really good for the neighborhood. Again, we're in this new version of the site plan. We're listening to the neighbors. We met with the Arcadia neighborhood body last week and hope to have a small task force of that group working with the house and its future philanthropic partners moving forward. The larger site allows the potential for access from Camelback Road through the church. There's an existing easement in place and an agreement in principle to allow that to perpetuate. And that would take a lot of the traffic off, really most of the traffic off of the neighborhood streets. One of the larger concerns of the neighbors. We're looking to close the entrance from Exeter off, except for, say, emergency types of situations and potential pedestrian options, and provide a buffer with those neighborhood streets. These are things that we're doing to address some of the concerns of the neighbors. And finally, the larger site is good for the general public and the future life of the building. I think that is something that's well understood. The 2.45 acres is only something that could put the building in kind of functional obsolescence moving forward. The last thing anyone, I think, wants to do is to shelter the building and prevent it from being meaningfully used by the public. With that, I'm going to turn the DS over to Mr. Kibler, unless there are any other questions.
I don't think, are there any questions?
All right, thank
I
you.
appreciate that. I don't want to get very much off track here, because that's not, and certainly I think the intent was stated by your attorney was to facilitate a transfer to a foundation, and I'm assuming that you're not going to tie the foundation's hands to a specific plan. If it's handed over to a foundation, that foundation would work very closely with the neighborhood to make sure that any action on this land would be done in partnership with them. So that raises, all right, that's why we're not voting on this today, and I'm not sure that's where we're going to end up. Please, sir.
Thank you, Mayor Stanton. Thank you, Council, for your careful attention to this matter. I thank Councilwoman Stark for her motion that allows the withdrawal to come before the Council tonight, and thank Mr. Stevenson and his staff for their thoughtful consideration of our withdrawal application as well. My name is Mike Kibler. I'm at the law firm of Simpson, Thatcher, and Bartlett. I'm in Los Angeles, and my firm is based in New York, but over the last 10 years, I've spent a lot of time in Phoenix. I have clients here. I've had other litigations here. I've appeared before the courts here and spent months and months and months in Phoenix and really come to appreciate and love this beautiful city. I always like coming back. I'm a litigator. I'm not a preservationist. I'm not a historian. I'm not a zoning lawyer or a land use lawyer. So I'm here to discuss litigation. Not to make idle threats or to bang the table. That's not my style. But the council should know that the 2.45 acre city-sponsored application is causing my client real harm through its pendency. It's destroying value in the property and will continue to cause harm to my client until it's withdrawn. When I first became involved in this matter and met with my client and learned about the history, I mean, my initial reaction was 3 cheers for Phoenix and this city and the planning department and the Historic Preservation Commission, who had the vision back in 2012 to save this house from demolition by a developer. But a lot has changed since then. The 2.4 acre application served its purpose to prevent the imminent demolition of an historic treasure for the people of Phoenix, and it's time to put it to bed. Somebody else had great vision back then too, and that's my client. He had the vision to acquire this property and become the private property owner of the 2.45 acre application. He had the vision to expand the property to its current 6 acre configuration. And he had the vision to bring forth a vision for the property, a magnificent vision, in the form of this 6 acre plan. And he did all this in the face of what I believe to be confected opposition from a PR firm that sought to smear his reputation and impugn his motives unfairly. But he persevered to where we are today. The issues with this home raise not only important cultural heritage issues and historic preservation issues, but they raise an important legal issue related to property rights, private property rights. And you're all familiar with Proposition 207. That's the legal issue that intrigued me as a litigator when I was first approached by this, by the client. But as I thought about the private property rights in Proposition 207 and how it would apply to the pendency of the 2.45 acre application, it struck me this is kind of a unique Prop 207 case if it were to go forward, in as much as a typical case pits a private developer who's out for commercial gain against the government, who's looking out, as the chaplain noted in his invocation today, for the citizens and the public interest. Here, we have a unique case, because here we have a private property owner who owns the David Wright House, and his interests are perfectly harmonious with the interests of the public. And I'm unaware of another Prop 207 or takings case that has similar facts.
I just want to make sure, sir, I don't know if you heard me earlier, that you have a half hour for all of the individuals. Ms. Hickman, I don't know how you want to organize your time, but our friend from Los Angeles has eaten up a lot of time, and we have a lot of local residents that want to provide testimony. I'm not sure, this council is well versed on both the factual and legal issues. As I mentioned, we had a very detailed executive session. We understand that you're threatening a Prop 207 lawsuit if we don't vote. That's well-founded. Do you have additional arguments you'd like to make? I don't want to give you advice about how to use your time. This may not be the most effective use of the 30 minutes you've been granted.
Sure, I'll move
and
forward,
it's costing
Mayor.
Zach a lot of money, too, from an LA lawyer. That's a whole different story. But anyway, so you get my point.
I
This may not-
understand.
You have a well-prepared document. You want to submit something in writing, feel free. But in terms of eating up the testimony from some of the historic preservationists that also like, I'm going to cut you off at half hour as we agreed to in advance. So go ahead, sir.
I appreciate it, Mayor. Let me then just briefly say that the pendency of this application destroys value in the home for three principal reasons. It has blocked the partnering with any philanthropic organization who have expressed interest in getting involved and bringing the vision to fruition. It destroys my client's significant economic investment that he's made in this site. And it renders, if approved and pushed forward, it renders the remaining 6 acres virtually unusable. So in a sense, this case was, unusable for its, I hear chuckles from the audience, unusable for its intended purpose. He acquired those acres to bring forth a vision of the property that Frank Lloyd Wright had when he designed it. So in conclusion, in a sense, the Wright House is a dream client for me. They came with a fascinating and important case addressing a new legal issue under Prop 207. He's willing to invest real money in its prosecution, including money to have me speak too long tonight. And what more could I ask for as a litigator? But in a sense, he's not a dream client because he doesn't want money at the end of the day here. He wants to bring forth his vision. And I think we're confident that if the 2.45 acre application is withdrawn, as city staff has recommended, that vision can be brought forward. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. I said, Vanessa, was your choice to kind of bring in some additional folks as part of your time, if you will. But I did want to go back and forth so that both sides are equally represented and we provide balance to the testimony. Mr. Thomas Galvin of the LaRose Law Group, who I believe represents a neighbor to the property. Did you provide testimony? Please come forward. And so this will be on the other side. We'll start with you.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, thank you for your time. Actually, I'd like to say today that our client is okay with the withdrawal. And in fact, we consider this as a win for the Arcadia neighbors who oppose the commercialization of Arcadia. We would like to see this house remain in a residential use. The concerns that we have is that any application that would come back to this council should not violate the deed restrictions. We want to make sure that that's the case because the house is restricted to being a residential use. Secondly, we also believe it would be in the best interest of the city to bring back applications that includes both the use permit and rezoning at the same time. The city has been through quite a lot for the last 2 years, and we think it would be beneficial for staff and for your own edification. Third, the Wright House has pledged to stop public events. The neighbors took them at their word. They even said, okay, you have a few events scheduled, go ahead with those, even though they've been highly disruptive. One was held 2 weeks ago. I have not heard today a vow from anyone representing the Wright House that public events will not continue to occur, that any commercial events will not continue to occur, or any third-party events. So we'd like to hear from them to see that they've kept their word. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Galvin. Also representing a nearby neighbor is Mr. Stephen Earl. Mr. Earl, would you provide testimony this time?
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. My name is Stephen Earl with Earl, Curley, and Lagarde. Our address is 3101 North Central Avenue. I appear before you today in behalf of Dr. I always get his first name wrong, Volker, excuse me, Dr. Volker and Lynn Sontag and Chuck and Dory Duff. Dr. Sontag and his wife have lived on the south side of the David and Gladys Wright house for 30 years. They knew David and Gladys Wright, whose home was designed by David's father, the famous Frank Lloyd Wright. Through all those years, this was a regular neighborhood setting. They knew them, they knew their grandchildren. It was a neighbor over the back wall, just like you would expect in all of your neighborhoods. You come home, Dr. Volker is a world-renowned neurosurgeon with Barrows Neurological Institute. He spent 30 years, helping people and operating on people to improve their medical condition. He comes home after long days of work and expects to have what we would all expect to have, a normal backyard. 2 years ago, that changed dramatically because of Mr. Rawlings and his team. So we're hearing a vision that suggests that there's been innocence on his part, that it's all philanthropic. He's done things only to help the city. Well, what he actually did was, over a period of several years, he gobbled up adjacent properties because the original site in which David and Gladys House was created and on which they lived for all these years was 2.45 acres. The rest of all this has been created in this vision. Well, it's as relevant as what they said.
Nope.
All right.
I'm going to take the testimony for the benefit of the council, but I'm more concerned about the time, but go ahead.
Yeah. So, and let me know when I'm 3 minutes is up.
Actually, we're going to give you as much, use good judgment because I gave you 30 minutes total for all
Well,
folks.
I'll be brief then. But over the past several years, what they have had to endure is car shows, concerts, movie nights, huge holiday parties like Easter and Halloween where hundreds of people attended, weddings and receptions. Now just imagine you lived in the house next door to that, where all that occurred late into the night. There was a setup, there were takedowns, there were vans and moving trucks and pedicabs and vans transporting people back and forth. Where once you thought you lived next to David and Gladys, right, in their great home, you now live next to a commercial event center. Now, why do we think the 2.4 acre application is important to keep? It sounds like it may not, based on the motion, be done, but we felt it was important because it kept the eye on the ball, which was the 2.45 acres. Now, the paradigm is being shifted to 6 acres. We're now hearing that what they're going to bring forward is 6 acres with, I guess, suppose a special permit, and it's all or nothing. Either accept everything we want with all the commercial aspects of that, or nothing. And we go back to the fact that it's really their paradigm that they've created by gobbling up these homes and tearing them down and creating what they want as their vision. We would suggest to you that the David and Gladys Wright home should be preserved. There's just no question about that. It's an architectural icon. But so is the neighborhood a wonderful place, like all the rest of the neighborhoods in Phoenix. And we ought to keep our eye focused on preserving that neighborhood and preventing commercial intrusion into it, which has been happening for 2 years with no approvals at all.
Thank you very much, Mr. Earl, for
Thank
your testimony. I'm going to switch back to the other side and hear from Allison King, noting that there's a total of 17 minutes left for those that are supporting the motion. Ms. King, good to see you.
Good afternoon. I will be brief. I'm Allison King, and I'm the founder of Modern Phoenix LLC and the Post-War Architecture Task Force of Greater Phoenix. I live in Uptown Phoenix, and I've been involved in the effort to preserve the David and Gladys Wright House since 2012, which is since the beginning when all this started. You've probably read and heard all of the practical reasons why the withdrawal of the current application is best not only for the house, but also the community. I'm going to address a different aspect, which is the human element of trust. Many are worried that the withdrawal places the home at risk in the interim while a new application moves forward. And I assure you that the last thing that Zach and his team want is the burden of shame and the international wrath that will happen if this house meets a terrible fate. So his word is bond, and the new application is as well. And just look at the names and the faces of the preservationists and people who understand this issue that have written to you and are testifying today, and really think of it as an A-team to help make this project succeed. And not to mention the support of the 4 former mayors who published their op-ed in the Republic this week. You couldn't ask for a more qualified endorsement. So we know that this is an unusual request. And I don't think any of us would have predicted that we would have been here now at this point making this decision. But preservation isn't just about buildings, it's about people. And I need you to trust the people and the solidarity of those of us who stand with the David and Gladys Wright House. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. King. I committed to both sides that I would not hold the endorsement of the 4 former mayors against either side in this case. All right, the next speaker will be Tracy Wadas, who is opposed to the motion to withdraw?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members, for the opportunity. Thank you. Can you hear me now? To be here today. You know, I had some things prepared. I wrote each of you a letter yesterday, and I've heard so much information today. I have fought this for 4 years. I have lived next door to this for 4 years. And it was this application that we sat at a home, and Mr. Mayor, you said would protect us, the neighbors, the homeowners. It was this application that we needed to believe in. I took time out of my life away from my husband and my child to learn about the historic preservation process, to sit down with Michelle Dodds, who I have the utmost respect for. You are not in an easy position today, and I understand that. And I also understand what the outcome may be today. But long after Zachary Rawling has ridden off into the sunset and out of Arizona on that white horse that you touted him to come in and preserve this house, and we still sit here 4 years later without any designation whatsoever, you have to understand my skepticism along with my neighbors. It is very disconcerting. So I am opposed to the withdrawal of the application. However, with that said, I am not opposed to this process, and I'm not opposed to this project. I'm a member of the Arcadia Camelback Neighborhood Association. I try to bring a balanced voice. I want to sit down with neighbors. I want to sit down with another new development team. I was disheartened today to hear once again we're not hearing any of what the plans are or having any transparency, because it's been 4 years of misrepresentations and no transparency. I respect what you have to do today, but I want you to remember that long after he's gone, it's we, the voters, the neighbors who have each of you in these positions that are going to be here to clean up whatever debris is left behind. And so I just hope you make good decisions today. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Ms. Wattis. Deanna Vickers is next, followed by Mr. Paul Barnes.
Mr. Mayor and members of the council, my interest in this issue is twofold. My husband and I live in Arcadia, about 5 blocks from the David Wright House, and I've been an avid activist in historic preservation all my life. I believe that I mention my experience because my work in historic preservation has been multifaceted, from raising capital to managing historic sites to serving on the National Trust Board of Advisors. And what I have learned from this experience is that rescuing buildings is the first challenge, but the greatest challenge is maintaining and operating historic sites for future generations. As you heard, some of our neighbors in Arcadia were very enthusiastic about preserving the David Wright House because they thought someone would buy it and live in it. Well, if someone buys it and lives in it, it won't provide public access, and eventually it will turn over in ownership and it will be gone. And that's precisely why we have historic preservation, why we have commissions, why we want these buildings preserved so that they can be instruments for learning, for education, for culture. The 2.45 acre site that the city put in place during that time when the developer was going to raise the house is not adequate to provide the maintenance, the base for maintenance and operation of a historic site. It's too small to develop even minor public accommodations, to have ongoing educational, arts, history programming. And those things are what are needed to attract, and the ability to do those things are what is needed to attract another partner into the mix with the Rawlings family. And I think it's imperative that this be withdrawn. It's an obstacle to doing anything to actually preserve the David Wright House in the long term. I know this is not an easy decision for the council because there's opposition and there are some legitimate concerns, I'm sure, in the neighborhood. I don't happen to have concerns for them, but I understand that other neighbors do. But this is a very iconic building in this city, and this is a big milestone in the cultural development of Phoenix. Frank Lloyd Wright is the most well-known American architect. This particular home was a precursor to the Guggenheim Museum in New York City. We do not want to be a city that lets this go. I urge you to withdraw this.
Thank you, Ms. Vickers, very, very much. Paul Barnes, followed by Mr. Tom Chapman.
Thank you, Mayor, and the members of the council. When I was president of the Neighborhood Coalition of Greater Phoenix, I was a very strong supporter of the city's 2.4-acre HP application to save the house. However, I was not and am not a supporter of what the owner of the house and others are now supporting. That is morphing the original 2.4 acres as well as additional acreage into a cultural, money-generating mecca which pushes to preserve that which never was. Some supporting the withdrawal of the 2.4-acre application have made the point that by tying in the entire 5.9 acres, access to the house can be made from Camelback Road rather than forcing traffic onto neighborhood streets. This ignores the fact that the real issue is encouraging the entry to the house of scores of visitors for individual commercial-like paid events through either charge or donation. This is simply not fair or acceptable to the neighborhood. Please continue the present 2.4 HP-L overlay for a 6-month period to allow the affected neighbors to work with the appropriate parties to construct a win-win result. So far, there have been no such fruitful discussions. If the mayor and council ignores the plea and gives in to current threats imposed by those making them, how will the affected neighbors have a chance to avoid being thrown under the bus by the city as a 5.9-acre application proceeds? Should saving a building take precedence over saving a neighborhood? Under reasonable circumstances, not those currently existing, both should be possible. If the mayor and council ignore this plea for continuance, some have said that today will be one that will live in infamy. I feel this position degrades the sacrifice that over 2,000 made when they lost their lives 75 years ago due to a vicious attack. However, ignoring the plea for continuance will be akin to a vicious, unprovoked hit to the neighborhood in which the house is located. This hurtful blow will not be forgotten.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Barnes. Mr. Chapman, followed by Larry Wooden.
Good afternoon, Mayor. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. It's always fun to follow my good friend Paul, although I disagree with him today. But we're all here for the real reason. I'm here as a past chair of the Historic Preservation Commission. In fact, I was the first day that I became chair. That first meeting, I became chair. And I walked up to Michelle's desk, and we talked about the meeting, and she said, "Look at these emails. Remember, Michelle?" And the emails were from Buenos Aires to Anchorage, from Bangkok to Moscow, and everywhere in between. This is an important part of our community. And as an advocate for historic preservation, please, please do what you can do, and I'm in favor of the withdrawal. And I also would like to take personal note to, regardless of the stuff that's been said, that Zach Rawling has done a really excellent job, and we all need to appreciate him. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chapman. Mr. Larry Wooden, followed by Mr. Richard Ray.
Good afternoon, Mayor and City Council members. My name is Larry Wooden. I'm from the Frank Lloyd Wright Building Conservancy. I was president of the Conservancy when we brought this issue to the city in 2012, and I now serve on the executive board of the organization. You have before you this application to withdraw the 2012 pending application for historic preservation overlay. At the same time, you have on the table a 2015 overlay, which was presented and is still under review, presented by the owner, is still under review. Our primary concern is the ultimate preservation of the building. And that has been our concern from day one. It continues to be our concern. We remain confident in the residents of the city of Phoenix and in the owner and in his team to be able to find resolution to the appropriate way to preserve and make this building available to the public. Our concern is that if the removal of the 2012 overlay does create, under some extreme circumstances, some additional threat to the building until the 2015 version is finalized and approved. So that was why we took the position of requesting that the 2012 overlay remain in place until the other one has been removed. If it is the wisdom of the council to decide to remove it today, we stand ready, as always, to work with any of the parties to suggest and help with evaluations of other mechanisms which can assure the protection of the building through that interim period. And we remain open to doing so. So thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wooden. Mr. Richard Ray, followed by Lynn Sontag.
How much time do I have?
How much time does this side have total? About 10 minutes total, but there's still about 4 or 5 more cards.
Okay. I first became familiar with this house 61 years ago when it was my next door neighbor, when we lived at 55th Street in Exeter. I've been intimately involved in this entire process since it began when John Hoffman and his partner were going to tear it down. What we have here in the 2.47 is basically a very good and very needed action by the city of Phoenix to present and protect the house. But the need for that disappeared later and now should be withdrawn. I am very much in favor of the withdrawal. You have my letter that speaks to it. The whole thing is, and the concerns of the people, and I understand they're neighbors of mine, I can imagine the eggs in my house, but the whole thing is that the concerns can be adequately, thoroughly, and very definitely addressed in the next process, and the process will move forward now with a reduction in activity, a reduction in what's planned, and I think that it'll be a win-win thing. I don't know that April, May, or June, whenever it gets to you, that you're going to enjoy it, but I think it will be then meaningful, and everybody will be on the same page, and then the neighbors can be heard in the right time. But first, let's get this, the appropriate thing done and have it withdrawn. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr.
Incidentally, Dr. Sontag saved my son being able to walk again, and I'll never, ever, ever be able to thank him enough. I just wish I was on the other side for him for this. So.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Ray. And Lynn Sontag, with those kind words, you're next, followed by Mr. Edward Jones. Eddie Jones.
It's always so nice to hear positive comments about my husband, as you all know. Lynn Sontag, thank you for letting me speak. I am the homeowner. My husband and I live exactly across a fence from the David Wright house. We've lived there 30 years, and we had a very sociable and friendly relationship with the Wrights on the north side of us and as well as on the east side of our property. Now the events that are held at the David Wright house are extremely disruptive to our home life. When there's an event, the noise and trucks and the setup and the caterers begin the day before, during the event, and the next day the trucks are back picking things up. It has caused a dissatisfaction for ourselves and, as you have heard, for the rest of our neighbors, many of our neighbors. We would like to have you continue the overlay that is currently on the property, and we will never support a commercial enterprise there on that land. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Sontag. Eddie Jones, followed by Dr. Sontag.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. I'll be brief also. Eddie Jones, local architect. Of course, I support the withdrawal, but I support the long-term goals of this, and that is for it to be open to the public. I don't think there's anything I can say here that you haven't heard 6 times already. So I think it'd be far more powerful if I give you an example of outcome. And over Thanksgiving, I took my family to see the Gamble House in Pasadena, California. The Procter & Gamble Company, the Gamble family built the house 1908 and I think it was 66. The house was turned over to the city of Pasadena. Now, I don't know if the neighbors had concerns, exaggerated or misguided, whatever. I don't know if there was any opposition at all. But the point is, it is open to the public. It is continually being an outreach amenity to the community, and it has become a jewel of the city, a point of pride. The Schindler House in West Hollywood, same day, same situation, given to the city in 1994 in the middle of a very affluent neighborhood. And by the way, the Gamble House is in a far more affluent neighborhood than Arcadia, and it all works out. Third example, not unlike the Heard Museum here in Phoenix. It's in a neighborhood, and it's beautiful, and it's a point of pride and an identity for that neighborhood. And finally, the Phoenix Art Museum, I think we could put in the same category. So, sure, withdraw the application, but we're going to be back, and I just want to tell you there are many examples where it's proven that it's okay. In fact, it has such a positive outcome, these wonderful works of architecture, that the city's become better. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jones. Dr. Sontag, followed by Dory Duff.
Good afternoon. Thank you for listening to us. I will be short since my wife, more or less so eloquent to present our position. My name is Volker Sontag. I've been at the Borough Neurological Institute since 1978 and lived in the present house that's bordering 2 borders of our house with the Frank Lloyd Wright property for the last 30 years. We had a great relationship with David and Gladys Wright and great relationship with Karen Robinson, who's the granddaughter of Gladys and David, who lived in the property directly east of us, which now is a dirt lot and some citrus trees on it. Many years ago, when David Wright was still alive, they were approached about designating their house to be historic, and they flatly refused. They were very private people. We appreciate that privacy. As, on the other hand, we became friends. We also became very close friends with Karen, the granddaughter of David and great-granddaughter of Frank Lloyd Wright. I have a letter from her here, which is 2 pages long, but I would like to only quote one paragraph from that letter, and then I'll finish. Quote, this is from Karen, granddaughter of David Wright. Quote, this is a letter addressed to Lynn and myself. Quote, on a personal level, I am grateful that the house was preserved. I believe this house should be preserved for generations, if possible. But not like this. What good does it to teach architectural students about the home when they cannot see it as a simple home in a normal residential setting? Students will be introduced to this home as a commercial feature rather than as a home, which my grandfather lived in, my grandfather designed to be a home, one of 2 homes designed for his relatives. My great-grandfather did design centers, and they're beautiful, but this was not one of them. What my grandparents would have wanted is for this house to be preserved as a home, not a museum. We are for the house to be preserved as an educational center. We're not, I'm speaking personally now, they're not for any commercialization whatsoever. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sontag. Dory Duff is next, followed by Mr. Jim McPherson.
Hello, I'm Dory Duff, and I live within a stone's throw of the David and Gladys Wright house, right catty corner across the street from the Sontags. Because there is not a better choice for now, I'm asking you to continue the HPL overlay application on the 2.4-acre David Wright House property. I know that the City Council and/or city is under threat of lawsuit from the developer and so-called philanthropists of this property, and that threat is causing you to consider withdrawing that application. Even though Zach Rowling bought the 2.4-acre property with the application in place, he is now going to sue because of takings or a detriment to his property value. But what about my husband and my property value, our detriment and diminution of that? We spent 3 years building our home in what anyone and everyone would expect was and always would remain a residential neighborhood. Rawlings' commercial development plans for this now expanded property will reduce our enjoyment of our home and property values. He has been holding unpermitted and contra-zoning commercial events there for 2+ years, and I can assure you that they are a detriment to our neighborhood's peace and safety, and consequently all of our property values. I ask that Arcadia remain a residential neighborhood with no commercial development as it has been for decades. Additionally, this constant reference to Rawling as a private property owner is simply not true, because this property has never been used as a private property, including the owner nor anyone actually living there, but instead he has hosted innumerable commercial events on this property. So I ask you to continue it, just because that's our only hope for protecting our neighborhood right now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Duff. Mr. Jim McPherson, followed by Mr. Craig Stabley.
Mayor and members of the council, my name is Jim McPherson. I'm not a litigator, I'm a preservationist, and I'm a cup half full kind of guy. And I represent the Arizona Preservation Foundation, our statewide historic preservation organization. And we're in support of the request of the David and Gladys Wright Foundation today. We know firsthand of the continued strong commitment of the Wright House Foundation to preserve and renovate the historic David and Gladys Wright House. We're pleased with the hiring of architect Vic Seide and landscape architect Chris Winters to develop a revised landscaping design plan that we trust will meet the needs and desires of the neighborhood and our community. And we're very much involved in the discussions of seeking additional local, state, and national partners to honor the past and maintain this wonderful treasure for our future, and we believe such partners will come about. Victor used the phrase common ground, and I believe we can all find that with today's decision and working together for the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. McPherson. Next speaker is Mr. Craig Stabley, President of the Arcadia Neighborhood Association, followed by Roger Bevort.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. I represent the Arcadia Camelback Neighborhood Association and its 2,400 members. We are respectively requesting that this council once again continue the application in order to preserve all options until Mr. Rawling can present his request for a special permit, demonstrating his intended use of the property. We believe it is premature to dismiss any option until everyone understands all the intended uses. While we welcome the possibility of a nonprofit partner, we fail to understand why the city's pending application is an impediment to such a partnership. Put simply, we think our community and this council deserves to have all information available before making any reasonable decision. However, if this council is nonetheless inclined to withdraw the 2012 HP application, we do believe there may be another way to achieve both neighborhood objectives and the preservation of the Wright House. And we would like to foster faith dialogue between Mr. Rawling himself and those immediate neighbors so severely impacted. Toward that end, we ask the council please ask Mr. Rawling to commit on record that he will not bring forward his HPL application without a congruent special permit application, excuse me. That way, all information can be considered in its totality. We would like the opportunity to work with Mr. Rawling personally on a plan that makes sense for Arcadia and our neighbors, but we need all of the information and do not want to consider bits and pieces in isolation as we have been asked to do for the past 4 years. Without considering all information together, we feel it is unreasonable toward the neighbors and it is detrimental to the public decision-making process. Also, we ask that the City Council confirm with Mr. Rawling that he will continue his commitment that he made to City Council last March by not having any more commercial events or third-party use of the property until such time as the special permits are in place. We are appreciative of Mr. Rawling's demonstration of good faith by suspending events for these past 9 months, and we would like very much to look forward to the continued peace and quiet that the Arcadians have truly valued for many, many years. If the council can please glean these two firm commitments from the applicant, we will at least have peace and optimism toward moving forward, and we will endeavor to work toward a plan that will preserve the Wright House in harmony with the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Stebley. Our next speaker will be Mr. Roger Brevoort, followed by Wendy Riddell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My name is Roger Brevoort. I've lived in the Arcadia neighborhood for the past 26 years, and for the entirety of that time been professionally involved in historic preservation in all kinds of issues in Phoenix. I'm also the co-chair of the Post-War Architecture Task Force and work closely with Allison King and Modern Phoenix. What's interesting here today is you have virtually the entire professional community of preservationists in Phoenix and all of the various advocacy groups that are involved with preservation unanimous to remove the proposed 2.5 acre designation, because there's now a strategic plan and a larger designation pending that offers opportunities to resolve most of the problems, to utilize the property in a way that is much more educational and interpretive and not commercial. So there's a master plan in place that resolves the problem. That may take some time to go forward, but the preservation community looks towards a positive win-win outcome here through the action you take today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Brevoort. Ms. Wendy Riddell.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Wendy Riddell with the law firm Barry Riddell, 6750 East Camelback. It's my pleasure to be here today on behalf of the Arcadia Camelback Mountain Neighborhood Association, who voted unanimously to oppose the withdrawal of the city's pending application. Just like the Frank Lloyd Wright Building Conservancy, we believe that the application should remain pending until an appropriate application which adequately describes the intended land use is presented. Our association welcomes the opportunity to work with Mr. Rawlings and to work with the nonprofit partner on a plan that makes sense both for the community and preserves the home. But they don't want to be asked to do this piecemeal, just as you are being asked to do it today. And look, I'm not a litigator, but I can read a statute, and I can tell you, when you look at it, it's hard to imagine a 207 application just for a pending application when the applicant took title to the property with that same application pending, and he himself has asked in the past that it be continued. But we would suggest, we came here today knowing the likely outcome, but there are indeed two conditions that if you could get Mr. Rawlings, if they will commit to, I think would allow us to move forward positively to work on a plan that makes sense for both the home and for Arcadia. And the first, you heard Craig mention, which is that there's no third-party events on site. No commercial events, no third-party events. The second is that we ask when they bring forward the HP application, the special permit application is brought at the same time. Give the community a chance to consider everything at once. Give the council a chance to consider everything at once so we collectively can make a good, reasoned decision that's best for Arcadia. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Riddell. I have just a few more cards to go. Let's see, Ms. Claudia Richardson, did you wish to provide testimony before this council? Or just have your opposition to the withdrawal noted? Please come forward. Mr. Brett Kleinman, did you wish to provide testimony before this council? Is he still here, Mr. Kleinman? Okay, he was, he marked in favor, but again, that's in advance of the meeting, so it's unclear whether it was in favor of the motion or not. Rocky Hanish, did you provide testimony before this council? Is he still here? All right, and how about Mr. Leonard Clark? Did you provide testimony before this council? No, thank you. Okay, so Ms. Richardson, you'll be the final speaker. Good to see you.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. I am a member of the Arcadia Camelback Mountain Neighborhood Association, but I also speak more toward being I live just down the block from the Frank Lloyd Wright, the home. And, and I'm just speaking as a neighbor. This home is a block and a half from the Hopi grade school. I know you know that, but I just don't know that everyone here knows that. And not only do I think about that when I think about the commercialization that has gone on in this neighborhood for the past several years, with people having alcohol and so forth and so on, it just doesn't seem that I'm for preserving the home, but I'm not for the things that have been going on in this neighborhood. And I live very close. I hear what goes on when they have these activities. So that, and living just a block and a half from an elementary school, to make this into a commercialization situation is beyond my belief. Besides, I know you want to preserve our neighborhoods, and Arcadia has long been known as an outstanding neighborhood where people want to live there, they want to take care of it, they want it to be a wonderful neighborhood. Now, and when I think about the historic from the 2.45 to the practically 6 acres, I think, what can they not do? Why do they need the extra acreage? You know, we haven't had any plans. We haven't seen things, what they want to do with this, but yet they want us to say, okay, you know, go ahead and go for it. And as a neighbor, that's very difficult for me. I need to see and know what's going to happen down the block from me and down the block from an elementary school. So I don't want the 5.9 or 6.1, whatever it turns out to be. I don't want that to be in the historical preservation. First of all, the buildings that were knocked over were not historical. The only historical property was the David and Gladys Wright property. That is historical. I do want that preserved. As a neighbor, I don't want the 5.9, 6.1 preserved as a historical piece of property. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Duff. I appreciate that testimony. It's all the testimony we have. We had obviously thorough testimony on both sides. As I mentioned earlier, I'll now turn it over to members of the council for any questions or comments they would like to make. Who is on the telephone right now? Is Councilman Valenzuela? Are you still on the telephone?
I am.
Councilman DeCiccio, were you able to stay on the telephone?
Yeah. No, I'm still here. I'm in my car.
Okay, thank you very much, Councilman DeCiccio. Okay, I'll turn it now to members of the council. Are there any questions for staff on any of the issues that were mentioned here today or the motion?
Mayor, may I
Councilwoman
say-
Stark, please. That's right. You had a comment earlier. I apologize.
Yeah, and maybe it's a question, I don't know, of legal or of staff, but I understand the neighborhood would like to see both of the cases come back, but I'm not sure we can stipulate that on a withdrawal, correct? I mean, if they're withdrawing a case, how can you stipulate things?
Mayor, Councilwoman Stark, that's correct. We have been waiting for a special permit application to be filed, which is what's needed to allow for the additional commercial activities. That is in the control of the property owner. The city can't compel someone to file something on their property, in order to bring that forward.
And Mayor, if I can just follow up on that.
Please.
And who's to say if they do find a partner and they say, we just want to do the historic overlay and we don't want to have events, we just want to preserve it. So I'm not sure. I think we're probably better off not stipulating anything on a removal.
All right, thank you very much, Councilwoman Stark. Any other comments or questions? Councilman Waring, please.
Thank you. So, Alan, there was a lot of discussion about third-party events. So it's my understanding the applicant agreed to not have third-party events through this month, the last time they were here. Is that right?
Mayor, Councilman Waring, I believe on the record, the last time they were here, they did commit to discontinue having their events, although they'd had a couple that they said were already scheduled, at that time, and I think those events happened.
But they've kept the commitment, it sounds like.
That's my understanding, yes.
So really, continuing or withdrawing this doesn't affect that. That was a personal commitment or guarantee made by the applicant.
Mayor and Councilman Waring, that is correct.
Because a lot of the testimony would lead you to believe that if we vote for the withdrawal, but really, he just made the commitment through December. In January, he could start up the events again, not have assuming he doesn't want to break his commitment. I assume he doesn't. So one thing would help the neighbors is if he renewed that commitment, I guess, until we come back and hear this again. That's not something we would have to vote on. That was just a personal guarantee by him or his representatives. I can't remember which.
Mayor and Council Waring, that is correct. It's not something the city can opine on. It would be up to the property owner if he wished to do so.
So, and I don't know if he's willing to do that or not, but that's not something we're voting on. We're not voting to let them have events. He could already have done that had he not made his personal commitment.
Mayor, Council Waring, that is correct. Let me be clear for the record, the type of events that they can have are the same type of events that you and I can have in our houses, where we can have parties, we could have people over, have political fundraisers, do those things. They cannot charge for renting the venue, but they can let people come to the house and have a party just like you and I would, because that's what their underlying zoning allows today.
If we voted for the withdrawal, that is not us sanctioning anything going forward that the neighbors might not like. Is that a fair statement?
Mayor and Council Waring, that is correct.
We're not setting up some new anything. We're waiting to see what comes back.
Mayor and Council Waring, that is correct. It would be what would come back with their larger HPL application and the special permit.
We are not obligated to vote for that when it comes back. That'll be a whole new discussion about a new item.
Mayor and Council Waring, you're correct.
All right, thank you. That's it for now.
Thank you very much, Councilman Waring. Other members of the council, comments or
Mayor?
questions? Councilman DeCiccio, you want to go, please?
Yeah, I just one question, and then when we get into the council part of it, discussing the motion, then I'll have a statement there, or if this is the appropriate time, you tell me.
Now would be the appropriate time only because Councilwoman Stark has a motion on the table. There's been a second. We've heard all of the public testimony. Now I'm turning to the council for questions and or comments. Councilman.
I missed that part. Thank you. If I could ask Alan Stevenson the question. The intention of the city staff is to do what with both the applications?
Mayor, Councilman DeCiccio, the discussion and desires related to the two cases have always been to have them come together, at the same time through the public hearing process, which is common practice when we have cases like a mini storage facility. You'll see a C2 request and the special permit for the mini storage on the same agenda, so the public can discuss them all at once. That has been, the request and the desire of staff all along. But again, that is something that staff does not control.
All right, thank you, Mayor. So our intention is really to have them do both, and we'll encourage them to do that, correct?
Thank you very much, Councilman. Any other comments or questions?
And then,
please.
And I've got some more comments, Mayor, and I don't have all my notes right in front of me, but I think I can pretty much outline this pretty well. I'm going to vote against this, not because I don't believe that there's a 207 problem, but because of the way the developers handled this case throughout. This is literally the longest case that I can ever remember in the city of Phoenix's history. It's been going on 4 years now, and at the end of the day, what have they produced? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. No plan, no direction. They would come in every now and then and do some things, but that's about it. They talk about walking and working with the neighborhood, but they haven't done that. Even at the last meeting with the Camelback Association meeting just, a week ago, they didn't even produce a plan of what it is that they were looking to do. It's been one excuse after another. If you look at this, if you look at any other zoning case that's occurred in the city of Phoenix, this is definitely an anomaly. Not because of the project, not because it's the right house, and quite frankly, this is not even that complicated. It is a lot easier than what you're seeing across the street. If you look at what's been happening with the Phoenician, a lot more complicated, a lot more detailed, and you're dealing with more of a neighborhood issue, and we're getting close to resolving that because they're sitting down working together. So instead of sitting down and working together, the developer has chosen, and that was his choice to do that. But instead of trying to work things out with the neighborhood, they've done everything they can to antagonize this neighborhood. That's all they've done. With the wild parties, it's been an in-your-face move all the way through this process here. For the last 4 years, he can come up there and talk about how well he's preserved the home, and thank you for doing that because that home is preserved. But at the end of the day, he's done nothing but to try to antagonize the neighborhood. Now he comes in with this kumbaya, like, hey, we're going to try and make it work, when in 4 years, everybody's been trying to make it work with him. My opposition to this is more along the lines of the protest that I've got against the way that they've handled this. And if you look at what's been going on, And you've got to start thinking about this. Why, and this speaks to the withdrawal. Consultants, generally, every now and then you'll get an attorney, and you can tell on the phone call or in a meeting that they're repeating themselves, they're doing things because they just want to bill their client. And in this situation, you've got consultants that are basically driving this case. They're driving this because they want to make more money on it. And what you'll hear consultants say is, oh, I'm doing this for free. But when you look at all the money that got put into this, from they're hiring their friends, their associates, and then they do these side deals with them, and then that's how they get paid every time that there's a mailer out. So this situation has been long ways coming at the city of Phoenix, but it's been done this way. It's been done antagonistically on purpose. It could not even been more clear than that. It's so clear what's happening here that these guys are driving them to cause them to spend more and more money. They see a guy who may or may not have good intentions. I don't know. I can only go by his actions, and they haven't been very good. Outside of preserving the home and putting in a nice lawn, really appreciate that. That was a nice thing. But at the end of the day, the antagonism, the negativity, the constant in-your-face moves, it's either driven by him or it's been driven by the consultants. But no zoning case, no case that we've ever seen does this kind of stuff except one. And it's the same consultant that's doing this at the Lakes Golf Course, where they went out and hired the consultant. His team got hired by the developer while he was the village planning chairman. Now think about that. You've heard me talk about this before. The village planning chairman, without ever telling anybody, no transparency, no disclosure, was put as on staff on consultant fees by the developer of who's developing the Lakes Golf Course. Never told anybody until I found out about it, and then he was allowed to resign.
Mr. Kaufman, I appreciate it, but
bottom
let the
line
councilman
is-
finish, and I'll give you a chance, please.
It's all
Go ahead.
related because of what's happening with the withdrawal. And I'm gonna say my piece on this. I'm still in my car, but the bottom line is, these conflicts create more money for these consultants, and that's what's occurring here. Zach may or may not see that. He may or may not be naive. I doubt it. But at the end of the day, he's being taken advantage of by his people around him. Now, he may not believe that, but he is. And this antagonism is going to go on for a long time until they sit down, and Zach himself needs to sit down with the neighborhood, unless he's afraid to do that, which he shouldn't be, because he needs to sit down, articulate it himself, work it out with the neighbors, one-on-one, mano-a-mano, call it whatever you want to call it, but they need to sit down themselves and work this thing through. Again, I'm going to be opposing this withdrawal only because of the way that they've handled this case so poorly. And I've had this conversation with city staff before. I've asked them, I said, have you ever seen a case so poorly handled? And they said no. And we've seen some bad cases come this way, but imagine this, 4 years and nothing productive. Nothing productive. Now, you've got attorneys in the room there. They fly them in from out of state. All this stuff could have easily been handled had they been nice, had they been polite, had they tried to work things out with the neighbors. Same thing's happening with the lakes. They could have been nice, but they chose not to. They chose to be in your face, chose to be antagonistic, and it's all about running up these bills. That's what this is all about. And I find it offensive, and I see it, and I find it very bothersome, Mayor. So I'm going to be voting no on this. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Councilman, for those very good points about not repeating yourself. Mr. Kaufman, if you would like, I'll give you a chance, but this council has a few questions to ask on the substance of it. That was obviously was the nature of a kind of a personal discussion between you and the council member. You guys maybe have to go spend some time together, but I think for right now the best thing is to allow us to deal with the substance of the matter. I'll turn to the members of the council. Again, the motion is to withdraw. Councilwoman Pastor, please.
I have several questions, Alan. Does the city have a special permit application to allow for commercial use to take place on the property?
Mayor, Councilman Pastor, we have not had an application filed.
Okay. I know it was asked, but I just want to put it on the record. Does a withdrawal of this application give them the ability to do anything they can't do under the existing zoning?
Mayor, Councilman Pastor, it does not.
Okay. And I have this one's a futuristic kind of, not I guess futuristic, I need another term. Councilman Waring probably could help me with the vocabulary. But if the owner could file the case tomorrow, how long would it take to get through the rezoning process and land back in front of the council?
Mayor, Councilwoman Pastor, at a minimum, a rezoning application like that would take probably about 6 months to get through. Given the complexities associated with it, you would have staff review time, you would have the village planning committee, the planning commission, ultimately then back to city council. And so, that would be a ballpark guess as to the time that would take. And that would be with the sides really sitting down and rolling up their sleeves to work on things, to come to some agreements on some regular schedule.
Okay, so then it's gonna go, if the withdrawal was removed, there's a whole process into play. And it could also take longer than 6 months because it could go to the village could throw it back out, passes the village, goes to the planning commission, and it could be thrown back out to settle certain pieces. So there is a process into play.
Mayor, Councilman Pastor, there is a very public process associated with the rezoning application that is the most robust in the state in terms of our requirements for working with the village and all of those things. And so it could take a number of months to get through that. So this action to withdraw it today does not impact any of that application at all.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other comments or questions, members of the council? Councilman Waring, you have some additional comments or questions, please?
So I have the Prop 207 concerns, but I can kind of read the tea leaves about how this is going to go. I guess I just want assurances kind of along the lines of what Councilwoman Pastor said. This doesn't really change, either way today, this doesn't really change the status quo. The only thing that changes the status quo is the personal pledge made by the applicant some months ago that expires at the end of this month. If I had to summarize things, is that a fair statement?
Mayor, Councilman Waring, I'd have to let the property owner opine on what that does to his statements. What I would say is that the withdrawal of this application doesn't do anything to the substance of the discussion, which is really going forward about how many acres would be designated HPL landmark and how many acres and what types of uses would be allowed with a special permit. That's really the public policy question that will come before the council sometime in the future.
6 months or more.
Correct.
If the continuance were to pass, based on the comments, I don't expect that it did, but if it did, or the withdrawal passes, is either one going to advance that timeline quicker? I mean, it's going to be 6 months or so regardless. Is that correct?
Mayor, Councilman Waring, probably at a minimum, yes, it would be 6 months.
So the only thing that would change is if we took 6 months and we had to continue us, we'd likely get sued, to Mr., I think his name was Kibler's point.
Mayor, Councilman Waring, that is correct.
Sounds like that's what he was suggesting. So we get sued and we don't necessarily get anything out of it. The neighbors don't get any more protections. I'm very sympathetic to the neighbors. I've spoken to the attorneys. I think there was 3 different attorneys who spoke. Got slightly different. I think one testified they were okay with the withdrawal. One kind of understood it looked like the withdrawal was going to pass and had some requests. And then one was, I would say, adamantly opposed. I understand all 3. It just leaves a little bit of vagueness of what's the appropriate thing. Given what you've told me, I'm thinking of going in a different direction I may have at the start of this hearing, which is why we have these hearings. I will ask the applicant if he is willing to renew his, he doesn't have to do it personally if he doesn't want to, is he willing to renew the pledge? If he just says the same thing, or his representative does, that was said some months ago, is that something that can be done for 6 months? I think that might, it sounds like that at least helped the neighbors. At least that's my interpretation of what I heard today. That may be a mistaken interpretation, but that's what I thought I heard.
All right, Councilman Waring is asking Ms. Hickman, the property owner's counsel, for any thoughts about that issue, please.
Used for the past 7 to 8 months. We're not planning on holding significant events. Our sole pursuit is to attract philanthropic partners so that we can drive the preservation and public access to the home. Are we willing to stipulate on any sort of withdrawal today? No. We would like this matter withdrawn from the council so that we can pursue the 6-acre historic preservation landmark application with a philanthropic partner, but I can tell you, you're not going to see a change in the way that the property is being used. We are simply trying to attract a philanthropic partner and have them on the property, have the types of discussions that are necessary to preserve the home and provide public access.
Thank you, Ms. Hickman. Mr. Councilman.
Mayor, I guess what I'm hearing is the status quo, since his pledge is going to remain, we're just not going to be voting on that.
Mayor, Councilman Waring, that's correct.
Okay.
So
That doesn't give me as much comfort, obviously, but,
Yes.
but at least it's something, and hopefully that would help the neighbors get through this next, sounds like 6 to whatever month period, with at least no change resulting from what we're doing today.
And-
So
and-
that is better.
Yes, and Mayor, Councilman Waring,
Please.
I will say that we have been requesting to sit down and do a smaller task force for over a year. And so we're very heartened to hear that the ACMNA is willing to sit down and have some meetings. We had a productive meeting last week, and we hope to continue to have those meetings as a smaller working group. And again, yes, you're absolutely correct about what we're willing to do today. So thank you, Councilman Waring.
Well, I just, Mayor, for my part, it's not my district. I don't want to be a Budinsky, but it would be great if people could work this out, preserve
Absolutely.
the house. You know, I understand the neighbors' concerns about, commercial uses and so forth. So, it would be better if this has kind of been the Cuban Missile Crisis of zoning hearings, except Sal's right, the Cuban Missile Crisis only lasted a couple weeks, and this has gone on for 4 years. So it would be great. I think I'm going to go ahead and vote for the withdrawal on the hope that might spur activity that has heretofore been absent, and that this will get done. And frankly, what I get out of that is I don't have to hear about it again. That would be fantastic. And maybe I can take my kids to tour it or something someday in a small group. But that is different than maybe I expected coming in here today. So I just wanted to kind of explain my thinking, and I appreciate Alan giving me, frankly, as always, you're always excellent, the clear answers that this isn't really changing things today. Hopefully the applicant will honor the verbal pledge to just kind of keep the status quo and not have big events, et cetera. That gives me at least some comfort. So.
All right, thank you very much, Councilman Waring. This case today, during this hearing, has been compared to both Pearl Harbor and the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Not disrespectful
I've never had a
either.
case like that before. Councilman Nowakowski.
Thank you, Mayor. Back in 2012, we had a hard decision. We were trying to save a house, a part of history. And Zach, I want to thank you for stepping in and saving the house. One of the things that I'm hearing today is that there's a lack of communication, and it's sad. It's sad to see that people that are willing to save a jewel of Phoenix and the neighbors that have relationships with individuals that live there, that there hasn't been that communication between you all. And I'm going to support it, but the next round, I want to make sure that you all sit down. I mean, it's a beautiful place to gather your neighbors and just to have a cup of coffee and talk about the future plans. And round 2 is going to be very different if you haven't sat down and had that conversation, knowing your love for this home, for what it represents, and knowing that the neighbors that love the family, that lived there for many years, I think you all can come together and find some common ground in what's best for the Arcadia community. There's a lot of advocates out there for historic preservation, myself included, that live outside that neighborhood, and that's not affected on a daily basis. So I think it's really important, and I know that you all can sit down and just find that common ground. So I'm going to be supportive, but I really ask that maybe we can get you the list of neighbors that have testified today. I think it's all public record, and pass that on to you all so you can actually maybe set up some meeting time and just really work things out. If there's any way that I can help you out in coming down and being that mediator, I mean, I would love to do that. But I think that there's a lot of love for this house and for the neighborhood, and I think that there's a lot of common ground. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Councilman Nowakowski. Any other final comments by members of this council? I'll just add on my own behalf, obviously, there are people that I greatly respect on both sides of this issue, people that I've had a chance to work with over the course of many years, and I respect the comments made by people on on both sides. When this case first came before us a few years ago, 4 years ago, this house was under actual threat of being torn down. That's why this council took the step of beginning the historic preservation process. I think this council would have continued to move forward and done the complete application at that time if it was necessary to stop this house from being torn down and take on whatever litigation it would have taken to be successful to save the David and Gladys Wright House in Phoenix, Arizona. Thank the good Lord, the house is not under imminent threat of being torn down. We got a difficult case in front of us, but the threat of tear down is not there. That's why I'll be supportive of the motion and say it's not appropriate to continue to have the city's application for historic preservation pending, because from a legal perspective, that doesn't change a thing. As you know, this council did pass recently a 30-day requirement that any house of this age would have to wait 30 days minimum before any action is taken on demolition. That would give the city time to do the historic preservation process if it was under actual threat of demolition. This house is not going to be torn down. And if it got to a difficult legal dilemma, I believe that this council would have the wherewithal to take on that legal fight. That's not the circumstances that we are under today. I do believe that this will best facilitate the desire of the property owner to hand this over to a foundation. I ultimately think that we have to get to a point where it's not just historically saved this house, but there's an easement, so it's done forever and ever and ever. Because as you know, under a historic preservation ordinance, the designation only gets you a 1 or 2 year stay of demolition, up to 3 now, I guess is what we're being told, but it's a temporary stay of demolition. It doesn't actually give it, working with a foundation, a trusted foundation, on a plan that our friends in the neighborhood agree with an easement is ultimately where this thing should be heading. If that is not able to work out, then we may or may not be back with another application from the property owner and some desire for activity on that site, and we will deal with that issue on the merits at that time. I think that's the appropriate course of action for this mayor and council to do what we need to do to protect this house and still what we need to do to protect the immediate neighborhood. And I don't want, some of the testimony has been more of a almost apocalyptic type nature. I don't think that's what we're actually facing here today. And for those reasons, I'll be supporting Councilwoman Stark's motion. I heard someone on the phone. Councilman Valenzuela, did you have something to say?
I do. Thanks, Mayor. This is an important issue, and this is not in my district, but frankly, we all have a responsibility for the city at large. An important and very important vote for not just this particular district, but for all of our districts, all of our cities. This is a neighborhood issue, it's a property rights issue, and in short, my vote today, and why I'm supportive, I believe, and well, frankly, I hope that catalyst for all parties to find a long-term solution that provides adequate protections to the Arcadia neighborhood, while also respecting Arizona's private property rights protection act, which is incredibly important, something we can't just sort of sweep under the rug. So it's why I gave a second. It's why I'm supportive of this vote.
Thank you very much, Councilman Valenzuela. Any final comments by members of this council? Councilman DeCiccio, were you able to stay on the phone? Okay, I just want to make sure the folks on the phone, I'm going to begin a roll call vote at this time. So the motion is to withdraw. There's a second. Roll call.
DeCiccio.
And Mayor, thank you again for allowing me to leave. I'm here now. But again, my opposition isn't about the 207 because, quite frankly, I think the city doesn't have any standing or ground anywhere on 207, even if it goes forward. So I understand that, and I understand why this is going to be withdrawn today on those basis alone. But again, it's about the antagonism, the negativity that this developer has shown to this neighborhood, and the complete disrespect. I'm going to be voting no.
Nowakowski. Pastor.
Yes.
Stark.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Gallego,
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, so the motion passes on an 8-1 vote before this city council. Councilman DeCiccio, I know you have to get off the phone. I just want to let you
I
know
do.
all of us are sending you positive thoughts and prayers right now.
Thanks, Mayor. Appreciate it. We'll see you.
We're going to move on our agenda. Now we're going to do the omnibus motion. We're going to make it. Okay, Vice Mayor, do you have an omnibus motion?
Motion to approve items 13 through 46, except the following. Items 13R, 13S, 13AB, 15, 18, 27, 46, 33, 44 are withdrawn, 23 is as corrected, and excluding these items for public comment. 13B, 14, 15, 18, 20, 27, and 46. Item 43 is to be continued to June 7th, 2017.
That is our omnibus motion. Is there a second? Second. There's a motion and a second. Any comments, members of the council? Roll call.
DeCiccio. Oh, he's gone.
Wait a minute. Tony Macaron has given me a signal.
We just
45 should be pulled.
45 we just addressed, right?
Yeah.
45 was the David Wright House, so I feel we have adequately addressed that. If you want it back, we can have it back. That's okay.
As always, the vice mayor is correct. All right, so we have a motion on the table. We have a second. Roll call.
Nowakowski. Yes. Pastor. Stark.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Waring. Williams. Gallego.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, that item passes unanimously. Next item is 13B. Is there a motion to continue, Vice Mayor?
Motion to continue item 13B until December 14th, 2016.
A motion. We have a second. Mr. Leonard Clark, do you have an opinion on a continuance on that item? No, thank you, Mayor. All right, thank you very much. Roll call.
Nowakowski. Pastor.
Yes.
Stark.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes. Next items are 13R, S, and AB. Is it okay to take those together? This is the customer service experts for price monitoring Sky Harbor Airport, customer service experts for secret shoppers for regulatory compliance, and then a contract to clean Sal DeCiccio's pedestrian walkway at the Biltmore.
Move approval of 13R, 13S, and 13AB, Sal DeCiccio's walkway.
Second.
Councilman Waring is unfazed by the phrasing of that item on the agenda.
So that you can vote,
There's
so
a
that you can
motion.
vote no?
All right. So the motion is in favor of those items, including to keep Councilman DeCiccio's walkway clean. All right, we have a motion. We have a second.
Do we have a second?
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Roll call.
Nowakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
Definitely, yes.
Stark. Valenzuela.
Yes.
Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, so the item passes 7-1. Next item is item 14.
Move approval of item 14.
Second.
Motion second, Leonard Clark. Item 14, did you have testimony? All right, we have a motion, we have a second. Roll call.
Nowakowski. Pastor.
Yes.
Stark.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, that item passes unanimously. Item 15, Vice Mayor.
Should we let the city clerk to read the title?
Oh, I'm sorry, you're correct. City Clerk reads the title on 15 first.
Item 15, ordinance G6241, an ordinance relating to the regulation of elections, amending sections 12-403, 12-1102, 12-1103, 12-1400, and 12-1401 Phoenix City Code.
Move approval of item 15.
Second.
We have motion and a second. Any comments, members of the council? Roll call.
Nowakowski. Pastor.
Yes.
Stark. Valenzuela. Valenzuela.
Yes.
Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes. Mr. Leonard Clark, did you have testimony on item 15? I apologize. You had a card in on that item. We've already voted on it, but we'll listen to any testimony you have, and if anybody wants to reconsider, we will. I apologize.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to say, and thank you, my name's Leonard Clark. On the write-in section, I'm glad you guys are doing the housekeeping, and I know you voted for it already. I'm just hoping that somehow they could see if the state law allows that write-in candidates, a lot of times when they, at the ballot thing station, when Phoenix posts it, as like the county or when there's other elections, they post the notice that a write-in candidate, who's officially a write-in candidate on the wall. I don't understand why, because it seems like the state law doesn't preclude this. When you mail out the the publicity mail-outs for candidates who are running, why you do not include in there, it's simple, the names of the write-in candidates so that everybody at home has an equal view of all candidates. So that, and also as per housekeeping, because I'm for what you did, I'm also hoping that you folks are still taking a second look at enforcing the law, I believe correctly, as a Pima County recorder enforced it in the last election, that the law requires that you make a good effort to contact every absentee ballot voter whose signature needs to be verified. Even if you don't get a hold of them, at least the law, as we believe, requires it, but the other 14 county recorders and the state Secretary of State does not agree with that, but they are breaking the Constitution. I hope you guys will do that. Thank you. That's all I needed to say.
Thank you very much, Mr. Clark. I know our city clerk agrees with you on your interpretation of gathering evidence of the signature so we can get as many ballots counted as possible. Okay, we have a motion. We have a second. Roll call. Mr. Clark, thank you for your support of the previous vote taken. Next item is item number 20. Do we have a... It passed 8-0, excuse me. Now item 18, Vice Mayor.
Could the city clerk please read the title?
Thank you.
Item 18, ordinance G6242, an ordinance amending Chapter 2, Article 36, Section 2-1603 of the Phoenix City Code regarding the appointment of members to the Healthcare Benefits Trust Board.
Move approval of item 18.
Second.
Motion is second. Mr. Clark, you have testimony on the mini city code regarding Health Care Benefits Trust Board.
Very, very quickly, my name is Leonard Clark. I'm just hoping that the citizens at large that are appointed, I like the policy of not having people who are already lobbyists, but then again, I don't know if the city people that you pick are, they're very well qualified. You guys are very well in your judgment, but I'm just wondering if when you appoint the citizens at large, can we avoid a check to see if that they were lobbyists for the particular industry in which you're having them for their expertise. Thank you. That's all I needed to say.
Thank you very much, Mr. Clark. We have a motion. We have a second. Roll call.
Nowakowski. Pastor. Stark. Valenzuela.
Yes.
Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes. Item 27 is 20 is the next item. We have a motion on item 20.
Move approval of item 20, federal housing opportunities for persons with AIDS.
Second.
Motion is second. Leonard Clark, do you have testimony on this item?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. A lot of us have friends and family who suffer from this, and I strongly support you, and I hope you'll vote for this. I do believe that we need to vote for this now because we are going to have, it looks like, a person who might not always agree with people in the LGBT community as our new HUD director nationally the president is appointing, and we're all worried about what Mr. Carson, if he does take this job, will do. So we need to get this funding now, just in case he changes his mind and wants to be cruel. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So a motion and a second on item 20. Roll call.
Nowakowski. Pastor.
Yes.
Stark.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes. Now we're on item 27. Item 27 is a vote on the 2017 Downtown Enhanced Municipal Services District Assessment, AKA Downtown Phoenix Partnership. We'll first start off with the staff report, then we'll hold a public hearing on the item, and then see if there's a motion on that item. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Paul Blue for a staff report.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. We're here today for what is now, I believe, the 26th year in a row of helping our downtown business community help fund additional services that they're asking, they're supporting, and that they have developed. And so the hearing today is part of the required process set out in state law. This process affords folks the opportunity to give you comment. This has spent extensive time with the community, we have heard pretty consistent support from the business community and the property owners. And with that, Mayor, we'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much. Now I'll open up the public hearing on item number 27, Downtown Phoenix Partnership District Assessments 2017. Public hearing is now open. I have a few cards on this item. Mr. James Deibler, did you just write testimony on item number 27?
I think he's gone.
All right, he is in favor of the city paying its assessment. Mike Medici from Smith Group. Mr. Medici, would he have to leave as well? He also is in favor of the item. Mr. Dan Clockey, did you provide testimony on this item or just to register your support? Thank you very much. And there are a series of cards here. All appear to be in favor of the item, not wishing to speak. Is there anyone else here in the audience wishing to provide testimony for the City Council on item number 27, 2017 Downtown Enhanced Municipal Services District Assessment? Going once, going twice. The public hearing is now closed. Vice Mayor, do you have a motion on this item?
Move approval of item 27.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any comments by members of this council? Councilman Nowakowski.
Mayor, I want to recognize one of my past colleagues, Maria Byers, in the audience.
You outed her. Good to see you, Councilwoman. Any other comments by members of the council? Councilwoman Williams, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to make a quick comment that this is something that I think has been a treasure to the city of Phoenix. Our downtown, 20-some years ago, you wouldn't recognize it. People coming here today would be shocked if they knew what it was like 25 years ago. But it is the downtown community that has helped turn it around, maintains it, and makes it continue to improve every year. And I want to congratulate all their hard work as well as staffs in putting this plan together and making it a cooperative effort. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilwoman Williams. Any other comments by members of this council? Roll call.
Nowakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Stark.
No.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, the item passes on a 6-2 vote. Next item on the agenda is item number 46, which is our planning and zoning agenda. It is the proposed, it's a rezoning issue at the northeast corner of 40th Street and Lone Mountain Road in District 2, Councilman Waring's district. Councilman Waring, my proposal is that we have a quick staff report, hold a public hearing, and hear from the community, and then see if you have any motion thereafter.
So I believe, Alan, correct me if I'm wrong, there's been a agreement, and I have a motion in front of me, so I'm not sure.
Do we have to legally follow that, or is that just a recommended process that you want to follow here today, run a show?
Mayor, Councilman Waring, I would say a couple of quick words, and then there has been an agreement, and I believe the neighbor would like to say a few words, and we're.
But we have to legally hold a public hearing, correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay, Mr. Stevenson.
Mayor, members of council, this request before you is a request to rezone a property that's approximately 297 feet east of the northeast corner of 40th Street and Lone Mountain Road. You see the area shown here with a black crosshatch. The original application was a general plan amendment and a rezoning request to R110. In this case, council previously just took action on item 44 to withdraw that item, so the general plan does not take effect. The item stands before you with a request via the memo that came out yesterday from me to deny the R110 zoning and approve R118 zoning with some modified stipulations that address concerns the community brought forward, like lighting, density, one-story homes. Those types of issues are addressed. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Any questions for our planning director? We're now going to open up the public hearing on item number 46. It is now open. Adam Baugh, you should provide testimony, and then also Red Jacobson. We think it might be good news. Go
We
ahead.
hope so. And I can say this in 20 seconds or less. You've given more time than necessary. My name's Adam Baugh, Withey Morris, 2525 East Arizona Biltmore Circle. You've seen hundreds of zoning cases come across this council over the years. Occasionally they have some concerns. This began in that way. Fortunately, this is a great example of community outreach. It took a while to get there, but I can't stand here and say it's a great deal without recognizing the efforts of Mr. Reed Jacobson. He's been a fantastic advocate for his neighbors, as well as my client, Paul Phillips, who's come a long way to make this thing work. Sometimes the best plans get worked out in cooperation with the neighbors, and this is an example of that. I'm grateful for Councilmember Waring's office, the mayor's office, and the rest of this council for encouraging both sides to reach a compromise. I'm happy to say a compromise has been reached. Stipulations have been agreed to, notice disclosures, even deed restrictions. So it's a rare moment to actually come together in joint partnership with the community on this one. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Baugh. All right, Mr. Reed Jacobson, do you provide testimony before this council? Good to see you.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I would very much like to thank Ruben Alonso, who has been tremendously helpful to us. Also, Councilman Waring for meeting with us very, very early on in this process and introducing us to Mr. Stevenson, who I have to say, in a city as big as this and as great as this, it's amazing that an old cowboy has a personal cell phone number of the Director of Planning and Development. In any event, thank you so much for everything you've done, all the way down to your staff, even Mr. Joel Carrasco at the Planning Committee village level has been fantastic. Thank you to all of you who have, your staff has been wonderful to us as well and very kind, very professional, try to do their best to get us in, even over the holidays, or at least get us heard. Paul and Jason Phillips from Wesley Development, I thank you very much. This thing has been as important to my neighbors as this whole Frank Lloyd Wright House to them. In me especially, because my little ranch is just north of there. So I think we've come to a circumstance here where we've been able to recognize the reality of the world and yet preserve a little bit of our idyllic, Eden-like, rural equestrian place. So thank you, and especially Mr. Adam Baugh. Thank you, sir. And one other thing, I know it doesn't concern you, but quite a bit of our agreement has also been a private covenants. So there's been a whole lot of work done here by Mr. Baugh, and we do appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Obviously, we don't vote on that private covenant, but that's a good faith agreement, and we very, very much appreciate you coming together in that regard. I should say with regard to Mr. Stevenson, what he did in this case is actually nothing special. He does that in every case. He rolls up his sleeves and gets intimately involved, and that's why he's good at his job. Thank you for saying that, Mr. Jacobson. Any other citizens here to provide testimony on item number 46, the proposed rezoning northeast corner of 40th Street, Lone Mountain Road? Going once, going twice. The public hearing is now closed. Councilman Waring.
Thank you. Mayor, you encouraged me to engage in hyperbole, so I will. This could have been Armageddon, but instead it's not. So, but it is important to the neighbor. I mean, that's true. What Mr. Jacobson said was true, particularly the nice parts about me. But apart from that, just kidding, just kidding. A little levity at the end of the meeting. No, but really, he spent a lot of time.
Very rare.
But I will say this: I appreciate, first of all, Adam's work on this was excellent. The Phillips are always good to work with. But it was very nice that somebody recognized, in this case, Alan, who is Ed knows and everything. I always sing his praises. You do a great job, and we call on you a lot. And what the mayor said is, we don't always agree, but this time we do, so maybe it is Armageddon. I don't know, but that is nothing special. Alan gives out his cell phone and is really very gracious with his time to District 2, and I appreciate it. And also Ruben, who I have occasion to work with every once in a while, so I appreciate you coming out, at least meeting these folks halfway, so they didn't have to come all the way downtown and spending time. It sounds like it worked out. It's later, so I will just get right to it. Alan, you ready for the motion? Or
Yep.
Mayor, you ready for the motion? So motion to deny. I don't know why I'm trying to do it without my glasses. Who am I kidding? Well, I misplaced them, so I guess I'll just have to do it. Motion to deny is filed and approve R1-18, subject to stipulations from the memo dated December 6, 2016, with modification to stipulation 13 to read as follows. The development shall use full cut-off and fully shielded exterior light fixtures, and any street lights within the parcel shall be minimized and use the least lumens possible to reduce light spillage from the property lines to adjacent properties as approved by the Planning and Development Department. Now, I read that, I only understood about half the words, but it sounds like it means something to the
I understand
the
it. I'll second it.
All right.
All right.
It had something to do with lights. I don't know.
And I want to take credit for Alan.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, so we have Councilman Waring's motion, which was to accommodate the agreement between the neighbors and the developer, seconded by Councilwoman Stark, who does speak fluent planning speak, so that's great. And I'll turn to members of the council. Are there any comments by members of this council? I should note that this is a three-quarter case, so 7 votes will be needed to pass the motion. Mr. Jacobson.
I have the signatures to withdraw the request for that. I also have the writing here with my.
Okay, so with the withdrawal of the opposition, so therefore 3/4 may not be required then for this vote to be facilitated. Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Jacobson. All right, we have a motion, we have a second. Roll call.
Nowakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Stark. Valenzuela.
Yes.
Waring. Williams. Gallego.
Yes.
Mayor Stan.
Yes. So that item passes 8-0 on a unanimous vote of the city council. Councilman Valenzuela, we only have about 50 or 60 more items. Are you okay to stay on the phone that much longer?
Mayor?
You all right?
Are you
All right,
awake?
just for you, we'll cut off those items and we'll actually say today's meeting is adjourned.